Good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Decor Depot Brickyard 400 for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series in the Elite Racing League. My name is David Westergreen, and I am joined, as always, by David Huckleberry, but a newcomer to the booth for me in replacement of Zach tonight. I've got James Watson with me, a former winner for my iRacing team, South Shore Racing, and a good friend. So I'm excited to have James in the booth. James, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Happy to be here and really looking forward to calling my first ever Elite Series race.
That's right, man. I'm excited to have you. And, we'll talk a little more about the race and everything that's going into it now. But first, we're going to throw it down to the national anthem and get that fired up. And now we will go to Belly Up Sports with the command.
This is Vince Stover with the Belly Up Fantasy Live baseball show from the Belly Up Sports Network. Racers, start your engines.
All right. And as these guys get it fired up, we can go to the grid. And James, your first grid, but it'll be no surprise as to the pole winner tonight. It was last week's winner, two-time winner this season, and the reigning Daytona 500 winner for Lake Norman Motorsports on the 4D Racewear pole tonight is Ethan Stanley. To his outside will be his Ethan buddy, Ethan Burrell for Pro Edge Racing. Row 2 will be Blake Reynolds and Matthew Weeks. Row 3, Jonathan Cutlip and Corey Abbott. Row 4 will be William White and Ryan Schold. Row 5 is Tyler Fody and R.C. Anderson. Then Gavin Hibbs and Scott Crump will make up row 6.
All right, and the rest of the starting lineup, starting in 13th, the number 24 of Michael Hosick, and the 01 of Ryan Gavel. Then the next row you have Jeff Green in the number 2, and Chad Frankenfield in the 15. After that, you have Aladar. I'm sorry, it's really hard for me to see.
Norgard.
Okay, my eyesight is really not the best, so it's really hard to see some of the fine print. But and then you have Chris Wright in the number 9, Ray Bracey in the number 7, Nick Moss in the 46 on row number 10. Row number 11 is Gilberto Javier Gomera in the 85 and Gerard Campbell in the 00. After that, it's Ty McIntosh in the 35 and Tate Lytle in the 56.
Row 13 on the grid will be Jordan Owens and Zachary Rogers. After that, it'll be Jesse Racimus and Josh Adams. Trey Holmes and Jess Story make up that 15th row. And I'm not entirely sure if Story has made the race or not. I haven't seen anybody get booted out yet, but he is one of our open cars. Seth Rawls and Justin Vandermarl make up row 16. Caleb Becumer may make up row 17. We'll have to see if he makes it into this race. I haven't seen him leave yet. Carlos Acosta there also in row 17. Josh Personet and Kyle Hanshaw are both locked into this race in row 18. Then it'll be last year's champion Justin Wadsworth with a pretty poor qualifying run for him. Justin Fortner there alongside in 38th. Gavin Higgins will start 39th, the rookie. I don't believe Paul Mikolajczyk's going to make this race in 40th in the open car. Then Dustin Dewar and Michael Goodman, I believe, are both locked into this race. Garrison Hogan will not race tonight in the 55, and then David Tooker, Mark Robilas, and Johnny Thomas did not set a qualifying lap. They will start out back. And we'll see who makes the start. I believe Pecumer is not going to start. I haven't seen any messages or anything about who made the race yet. Dave, do you have anything on that? Looks like Pecumer gridded up, so he may have made it.
Starting 43 cars. Robilas is running. Tooker is not running. Hogan is not running. Johnny Thomas is not here.
Got it. Perfect. Those are the guys. So a couple of chartered guys hop out. That allows Mikolajczyk and Pecumer to race. And as we get fired up for this Decor Depot Brickyard 400, James, I know you're familiar with some of the guys in this league, but I would say you're probably more unfamiliar with it. Having run the Brickyard before, though, what is your anticipation of, racing 160 laps around this famed speedway?
Races here at Indianapolis, more often than you think, tend to be fuel mileage races. Like, I know whether I'm running a next gen or whether I'm running an Indy car, I'm trying to save as much fuel as I possibly can because it's going to be hard to pass no matter what. You're going to have aero wash. It doesn't matter what you're driving. Again, next gen or Indy car, you're going to have to deal with a lot of dirty air. So the best way you can deal with that is save as much fuel as you can, save as much tire as you can, and allow your pit stops to be quicker and get track position that way. So whoever can save the most fuel and be fast is going to win the race.
I like that. Yeah. And, from our research before the race, I'm thinking around 35 to 40 laps to a tank for these cars. Now, for the stages, we will have 2 stage breaks, but we won't throw cautions on those breaks, but we will award points at lap 50 and lap 100 tonight. So if this race were to go green, you'd have to pit during each of stage 1 and stage 2. You could probably make it there on 3 pit stops, I would say right now, but I think we're going to see some guys short pit, try to divide the stages in half, then maybe go long on the last run. We'll see some guys try to save fuel, like you said, and stretch it long. It's a long race. It's going to be fun. Let's see what these guys can do coming down to the yard of bricks. Ethan Stanley, Ethan Burrell, pretty much the 2 fastest guys here. They've been the fastest for quite a while. They're leading Blake Reynolds and Matthew Weeks to the green flag across the yard of bricks. Down that famed front straightaway with the pavilion on your right, the big grandstands on the left. They hit the restart zone and get to the green flag, and we are racing for the Decor Depot Brickyard 400. Off into turn 1, Ethan Stanley takes the lead over from Ethan Burrell, and then it's Blake Reynolds and Matthew Weeks side by side just behind as the field gets strung out here and looks to try and settle in for a long race. See if these guys can make it happen. This next gen car is going to be extremely draft heavy. I wonder if we'll see a lot of single file racing and a little bit of limited passing with that being the case.
Yeah, and if I was out there, I'd be trying to get a single file as quickly as I can because the draft model in the next gen is a bit goofy. So the more time you're side by side and side drafting one another, the slower you go and the easier it is to lose the cars ahead of you. So obviously this is a very long race. So if you lose a draft now, it's not that big of a deal. But you want to kind of get into that habit as early as possible because if you lose the draft later on, then it's a problem, and you want to be able to have strategies to deal with that.
On board with Ethan Stanley there. You'll see Michael Hosek, Jeff Green way down to the bottom. That's because Corey Abbott, a few cars up, pounded the outside wall coming out of turn 2. I think you're absolutely right, though. The way these guys have raced up at the front, they've all stretched out single file, 10 cars deep, maybe now 15 cars deep as Ryan Schuld gets by that Corey Abbott machine just in front of R.C. Enerson. Scott Crump just behind, and now it's Chris Wright making a move underneath a Leighton Norgard just behind that group. That is the first side-by-side action in the field. Wright's got his teammate Jeff Green there just behind, working into turn 1. I don't know if Wright's going to be able to do it. Pushing Norgard up the track is one thing, but this next-gen car with that lack of horsepower, you can kind of just hold it wide open up top and make it work.
Yeah, especially here. That middle line seems to be really good. It's really easy to defend and hold your position, which is one of the biggest differences from real life, because that middle line, there's not a whole lot of grip on there. You know, a stock car can deal with it a lot easier. If this was an Indy car, yeah, you'd be stuffed into the wall if you even thought about doing that. But thankfully, with how the sim is, you can use that to your advantage a lot more and be able to keep your position and not, have to just relinquish it immediately to save your skin.
Yeah, I think that's what Leighton Norgard just ran into, and now he's up on the wheel trying to use that outside lane for attack mode as he goes after Ryan Gable. Gable ultimately running that bottom lane, and the entire field single file early in this race. And now we can kind of breathe a little bit, get into our storylines and some of the things that I wanted to bring up early in this race while, we have a chance, and especially while he's leading. But Ethan Stanley has led the way in terms of Lake Norman Motorsports dominance. And I know, James, you haven't been here for all of these races, or any of them really, but, the car leading right now has been the dominant car for both of, this season and last season. Did not win the championship last year, however. He ended up finishing second in points to his teammate. But this team collectively has won 6 consecutive races dating back to 2024B's third to last race at New Hampshire, which this car right here, leading Ethan Stanley, took home. Justin Wadsworth, Scott Crump, and Tyler Fody have also won races in that time. But 6 consecutive wins for Lake Norman Motorsports is a really big feat, and all these guys behind right now, from Ethan Burrell all the way back to William White, are working to try and dethrone a team that has not lost a race in, 6 races, but it's effectively been like 2 or 3 months since someone else has won an Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series race.
Yeah, I have raced with Stanley and Burrell long enough to know that none of the information I just received about it is very surprising, to the point to where it makes me wonder if I should change my name to Ethan and see if that will help me pick up a few tenths here and there. Because, yeah, it's a Ethan 1-2, and a pretty stout 1-2 who at that.
Yeah, those two guys are really fast. They're really good at this, and that is something we're going to watch for the rest of the way here. But I'm looking back. R.C. Anderson is going after Corey Abbott, but what you mentioned is coming to pass. The side-by-side battle between R.C. and Corey, even if it wasn't very long, has created a pretty big gap there from Ryan Schuld in 9th back to R.C. in 10th. So this front 9, single file, we're seeing them snake down the front straightaway here. Back there, you can see that gap from Ryan Schuld back to R.C. Anderson. It's widened out to over a second. I'm wondering if the battling that they did trying to sort out who was going to run in that 10th spot ultimately lost them to the draft and is going to maybe create some problems when it comes to fuel save.
Absolutely. Yeah, once you get to about a second, honestly, to me, feels like about 7-8 tenths of a second, you've lost the draft. Like, it's really weird trying to understand how the draft model works in this car. It's unlike anything on the service. So the slightest little bit side by side battling, it puts you in I don't want to go full Paul Tracy here, but it puts you in a danger zone of losing the draft. Now it looks like they might be starting to claw back a little bit, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to get them back up there. And yeah, the car leading that train now, they're in a very bad position because you can't save fuel. You're having to go pedal to the metal, foot to the floor, and yeah, that is terrible for your fuel mileage.
Well, it's one guy who knows how to get around this place. R.C. Anderson has attempted, I think he made the Indy 500 last year. That's a guy that if, you're Scott Crump, Chad Frankenfield, Ryan Gable running in behind R.C. Anderson, you feel pretty comfortable with that guy leading the train back up to this top group because he knows how to get around this place pretty well. He does it in real life a good bit in the Indy cars, and RC's former winner, I believe, of this race. I want to double check my notes real quick because, RC Anderson is a winner of this race back in 2022B. This is our fourth Belly Up Sports Cup Series Brickyard 400. Tyler Fody won the first one of these back in 2020. RC won the 2022 iteration, and Matthew Weeks won the 2024 iteration of this race. So those are kind of the guys who've won this race before, have that experience. And Leighton Norgard sideways off a turn 2. He's down to the apron.
What a save.
Yeah, that's a big save there. Norgard got caught up in behind the battle between Nick Massey and Jeff Green. He's ultimately going to lose a couple of more spots here to Tate Lytle and Zach Rogers. Norgard falls in, looks like 23rd. So a 6 or 7 spot drop for a Leighton Norgard there, but keep the car in one piece, able to continue on.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable save. This car is not easy to save. It's so temperamental when the independent rear suspension kind of starts doing what it wants to. You have no idea what it's going to do. And it's so easy to overcorrect in this car just because you need such minute, finite adjustments to your steering to be able to corral the car. And even if you do save it, sometimes it'll kind of unload the right rear and just kind of shoot you back up towards the wall. So anytime you make a save in this car, it's 1,000 times harder than it looked out there, let me tell you.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. And, thinking about it too, those tires will grind off when you get that car sideways. As we're looking at an incident here, might have been Gilberto.
Yep, just like that.
Pretty much exactly what you just described, and he had a lot harder time saving it than did Leighton Norgard. And Gilberto Javier Gomera will drop back to what is effectively last on the track here. And if you look at the pylon to the left side, we did have a change in the top 5. Ethan Burrell went from 2nd to 4th. Blake Reynolds has stepped past and assumed what has been a very common spot for him this season, challenging a Lake Norman car for the race lead. He's done that in every single race so far, and he hasn't prevailed just yet, but that's a guy who knows how to get it done. Once again, that's a guy with Coke Series experience, a pro, and it's been really impressive by our guys, I think, that this guy hasn't just come in and won all the races so far. The fact that we've had other drivers being able to battle at the same level as a guy like Blake Reynolds has been, really, really astounding, because I've always lauded the talent of the guys like Ethan Stanley, Jonathan Cutlip, Ethan Burrell. To see them enact it against someone we know is really good is just really refreshing as the battle begins for 4th as Matthew Weeks goes after his teammate. And I think Ethan Burrell is going to back out of this here, and just like that, yield 4th to Matthew Weeks. Burrell might have burned the tires off of that 37 car a little bit trying to keep up with Ethan Stanley.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, the aero wash just wreaks so much havoc, and because of that, you're just going to burn the tires up so much, especially here. Indy is always sneaky tough on tires. I don't have to bring up
front straightaway. Ty McIntosh, Jesse Racimus have wadded it up on the front stretch. Dusty Dewar got the inside wall as well. I think Ray Bracey might have been involved in this one. Caution is out. First one of the day. The Rubilis photo replay machine here. Ty washes up and just gets into the wall. Ray's going to get some... Oh, my goodness.
Oh, and they're still going.
Justin Fortner hit the inside end of the pit wall a ton. I believe that'll be race over for Justin Fortner. Oh, my goodness. On board with Justin Fortner here. This is not the sight you want to see coming off turn 4 in Indianapolis.
Nope.
Oh, and he gets clouded into the pit barrels.
He went full Spencer Pigot hitting the pit attenuator.
My goodness. Yeah, that wreck reminded me of it was Kurt Busch, and I want to say Clint Boyer, maybe Paul Menard, coming off a turn 4 at Indianapolis a few years ago, where they almost hit the pit wall, but somebody hit Kurt Busch really hard and spun him around a bunch of times. That's kind of what it reminded me of. But Ty, Jesse, and Seth get away with minimal damage, I think. The big damage is definitely going to be to Justin Fortner's number 26 car. That car, I think, is done for the day.
Yeah, a couple of friends of mine in another one of our leagues, we have this little thing we call an attenuator party, where we crash into the pit attenuator at full speed. We usually wait until after the race to do it. Doing it mid-race is definitely a choice, that's for sure.
I don't know that he had too much control there.
Yeah, I say that assuming he had any choice in the matter at all.
Yeah, he definitely did not. So shame for Justin Fortner. Looked like about a 5-6 car pile up there on lap 13. Kicked off when Ty McIntosh got the wall, kind of overcorrected it down into Jesse Racimus and stacked him up there on the front straightaway. So we will see pit stops for the first time here. And because the caution laps are so long in Indianapolis, I'd say let's make sure we get pit stops here, and then we'll go to our ad break. Yeah, Fortner's already disconnected, so as I assumed, that car is going to be done for the evening. Stanley leads pretty much the whole field down pit road. Looks like Chris Wright and Jeff Green have stayed out for those South Shore Fords. Go and lead a lap there for Chris Wright. Chris told me he was going to make that move to stay out under one of the cautions. He's going to try and save a set of tires, as we do give the tally to Ty McIntosh, the 35. I think that's a pretty good call. That initial contact was due to him, making that correction to the left, bouncing off of Jesse Racimus here. So as we watch pit exit, and then we'll get ready to go to our ad break. Let's see if Ethan Stanley can lead him off pit road. Looks like no odd pit stop shenanigans. I think everybody's going to be racing to the stage once we go back to green. And it'll be Chris Wright and Jeff Green leading them down on older tires, and we'll see how well that works out when we come back from break.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked. NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to www.raceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Decor Depot Brickyard 400 for the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Working lap 16 of 160 tonight, 1/10 of the way through this one. Chris Wright and Jeff Green, the South Shore Racing teammates, will be on the front row here. They are going to be on the 15-lap old tires. James, I'm not sure how this one's going to play out.
There's a lot of things I could say about it, but I'm just gonna let it play out.
Yeah, we'll see. I've seen Chris make it work before, so we'll see if he makes it work. At least he got some laps led for this beautiful 9 car as he takes off early in the zone. Jeff Green, his teammate, sleeping a little bit. Ultimately, that bottles up Ethan Stanley and Jonathan Cutlip. It's going to allow Blake Reynolds to clear through to second, and Matthew Weeks will be hunting for third on the outside lane. Weeks and Green side by side. Jeff holding it steady. Stanley cuts to the outside from behind Jeff Green. And Jeff gets loose going through turn 3. He's going to loop the 2 car. Caution's out. Hold the brakes.
Oh no.
Corey Abbott into Jeff. They're going to come back up the track. It's going to collect.
No, they're still wrecking.
Becumer, Acosta. I think that might have been Paul Mikolajczyk involved. Oh, and Jeff staying out on the old tires, does not play off. All right, I think Jeff might have gotten back to the gas a little bit early, trying to run the old tires. Oh, he got into Matthew Weeks. Is what he did. Yeah, he ran up the track and got into Weeks. He's on the brakes, and Corey Abbott nowhere to go. Tate Lytle's going to get huge damage in this. That's big damage for Tate Lytle. Tate might be done.
Yeah, that was ridiculous contact to the inside wall.
Wow. Yeah, Tate might be done. Let's watch from behind the Tate Lytle machine. This is one of the guys that was really fast in our last Brickyard 400 last season. Guy who could have won this race. He got bumped into the wreck by Michael Hosak, it looks like, and
wow.
He hit the same spot Brad Keselowski hit a few years back and flipped over just about the same that Brad Keselowski did back over there. Let's see what Tate saw from the onboard cam. There goes Jeff around in front. Corey Abbott braking, checking, and then into the spinning car, and just nowhere for either of those guys to go. Mikolajczyk was involved in this one. Caleb Becumer was involved in this one. Here's what Becumer saw, and it's Corey Abbott coming back up the racetrack that picks up Becumer, Mikolajczyk, and Carlos Acosta.
Absolutely nothing you could do on that one. You can't anticipate a car ping-ponging off the wall like that. There's just nothing you can do. It's unfortunate.
I told Caleb before the race I didn't want to say his name the whole night, right? He had a really quiet debut at Kentucky, very nice, got all the laps in, no damage on that car, and it did not work out the way I was hoping it would for Caleb Becumer tonight.
Yep.
Corey.
Wow.
I don't think there's I'm not blaming anything on Corey Abbott here either. Like there's nothing Corey could have done. He got sent into the inside wall and ricocheted back into traffic.
He is absolutely a passenger for a ride nobody wanted a ticket for.
And Kachow is unfortunately Kerchew here tonight in the Brickyard 400.
Yeah. Emphasis on the ow in Kachow.
Yeah. So Chris Wright did stay out. There's what I assume will be the tally getter here is Jeff Green, Hosak's on pit road. A bunch of guys came down pit road. Chris Wright did not. He continues to lead. Blake Reynolds did not get around him, and you can see the order there. And I'll throw to Dave for our ad reads so we can get those out of the way here on our second caution as we work lap 19. So Dave, take it away.
All right, we are sponsored, of course, by the Blue Egg Marketing. Rev up your business with Blue Egg, your marketing pit crew. Turbocharge your lead generation with experienced drivers that can navigate the competitive track to connecting with your customers. With Blue Egg, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Worldwide Technology Raceway is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of St. Louis, Missouri, close to the Gateway Arch. Features a 1.25-mile oval that hosts the NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and the NTT IndyCar Series. A 2-mile infield road course used by Speed Tour Trans Am, SCCA, and Porsche Club of America. A 1/4-mile NHRA-sanctioned drag strip that hosts the annual NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series Midwest Nationals event, and the Kartplex, a state-of-the-art karting facility. Our series sponsor, of course, is Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Sports commentary via podcasts, forums, and articles on topics ranging to nearly every sport, not your usual sports site. Check them out on X or bellyupsports.com. And our race sponsor tonight is Decor Depot, and we'll come back with a read on them. I got to find that in Chad's note. I figured Zach was going to be the one to have to say it.
Yeah, and Zach mentioned beforehand that he's thankful to be missing the
That's his
race that
kryptonite.
Decor Depot is sponsoring because he has trouble with the alliteration of all the D's there for Decor Depot. But for whatever reason, I don't seem to struggle with it, so I'm happy to report it is the Decor Depot for Brickyard 400, and we are 1 to green. You can make it to the end of the stage on fuel. Think these guys are going to be going pedal to the metal. Chris Wright cannot make it to the end of the stage on fuel. So, that caution seemed like a pretty good opportunity for him to come down pit road and get, a lap and a half of gas on everybody else. But, I guess he's just going to keep that nine car out there and see what happens, James.
Yeah, it honestly worked out pretty well for him. Like, he got that massive jump, and it gave him a good gap to the cars ahead. So at the very least, he might be safe. Like, I can't imagine he'll hold position for long, but he'll be able to kind of breathe a little more and, at least have it be a little more safer than what happened to his teammate on the same strategy there as we saw before the huge melee out of turn 2.
Right, yeah. He's restarting on the top. I think that's going to help him out, but that's also going to drag Ethan Stanley back to his back bumper right here. So we'll see how that plays out. Worth noting to clean up some notes. Jeff Green did get issued the tally as we expected for that incident, and then Tate Lytle's back on track. That car not done yet. I kind of thought it might be.
Wild.
He is a lap down, had to toe to pit road due to it being upside down. The right front tire and the left front tire both pointing the wrong direction as I look at that car back there. So
it's driving good.
He's going to have some issues, I think, keeping pace. We don't have minimum speed here. He'll be okay.
It's driving good. He'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Pace car off right here. The Decor Depot Brickyard 400 is about to go back green. Chris Wright leads him into the restart zone, and he steps on the loud pedal and gets us going. Stanley was not able to keep up with Wright quite as well. And Chris Wright will barrel him off into turn 1. Reynolds and Stanley side by side just behind, and it's going to be Blake Reynolds getting the advantage going into turn 2.
Man, look at how much ground he made up on one corner.
That's what the 15-lap tires are going to do for you. Chris Wright unable to hold the lead right here. It'll be Blake Reynolds down to the bottom, right to side draft, try and keep that track position up in the 9 car. And Ethan Stanley to the back bumper of Chris Wright. He'll now duck to the inside and take over as Blake Reynolds for the race lead. Stanley working to second. I imagine Matthew Weeks will filter to the bottom and follow suit, driving around the car with 15-lap-old tires. John Cullip jumped in behind Chris Wright right here, and he pushed him back past Matthew Weeks. How about that? Cullip gave him a really good bump draft, and now Chris able to get to the bottom. I mean, the tires don't look that poor for Chris Wright right here. Like he's not in the way. Like he's not as fast, but he's not so slow they're just able to zip around him no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, it's working out pretty well. Like, he's able to keep pace and hold position fairly easily. Now, he's had a huge disadvantage because he's on less fuel, so him being able to at least try to parlay some stage points out of this, I don't think is going to be very likely. In fact, he'll probably be out of stage points anyways before we even get to lap 50. But
he'll have to pit. He'll have to pit regardless.
Exactly. Exactly. But gamble for the lead lap point. You know, it's working out a lot better than what you would have thought originally.
You file this one away. I would file this one away as a move you could make. If I'm William White, Gavin Hibbs, sitting here going, man, the 9 car, he's on 15 lap old tires. He's driving away from me a little bit right here. Like he's at the very least the same speed as me right now. I'm filing that one away and I'm staying out if we have a late caution where people can't come down pit road. You can very clearly hold yourself in the right spot. We're seeing it right now with Chris Wright. I mean, he's doing a really good job. He pulled back up to the back bumper of Matthew Weeks. The draft's really keeping him in play right here. I mean, look at that, right? He's got 14 more laps of green flag run on those tires than anybody else he's around right now. And while everyone's faster than him, he's able to keep it nice and clean in the pack. They're 3 wide right behind. R.C. Anderson, Tyler Fody, Chad Frankenfield, 3 wide down the front straightaway.
And backs out of it very, very wisely on that one.
All right, Tyler letting the brains work there a little bit. We are only on lap 24. Gavin to the bottom on Chris Wright. We keep covering Wright because he's the one on the different strategy, and I think it's something to keep your eye on because guys are gonna see this and start making calls like that. Do you need 4 tires? I don't know if you do. Maybe you just can take right sides and pick up some spots.
Yeah, if he's able to survive this well on old tires, then surely right sides have to be pretty viable, especially since I imagine you're dealing with a lot of tightness in the air. So having just taking rights and trying to loosen the car up a little bit, that might pay huge dividends for some drivers here towards the end when you would actually consider doing that.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting. This is giving me some, this car sideways coming off 2. I think that's Kyle Hanshaw. It was Kyle Hanshaw. He saved it. Frankenfield and Wright are still side by side. Wright's going to yield the spot to Chad Frankenfield. But, I mean, if you imagine if we had restarted with 10 laps to go right there, Chris Wright would be just now falling to 9th. And I imagine you'd have a little more aggression late in the race, but, like, he's able to hold his own in the draft. I feel like this is a very viable move. So, yeah, we'll leave that point. Let Chris Wright kind of fall back here as Tate Lytle has brought the 56 down pit road. There's definitely some more damage that needs to be fixed on that machine. While we have an opportunity here early in the green flag run, I do want to bring up Corey Abbott and talk to him real quick. And Corey, we saw you get involved in that wreck earlier, but what happened out there, buddy?
Well, I saw 2 people stayed out on old tires, and the set was building loose, so I figured something like that was going to happen. When it transpired, what I thought was going to happen, where the car was going to go, it didn't, and I kind of drove right into him. It just wasn't my fault per se, but I could have done more to prevent it.
And, Corey, since it's green, we'll also go to Carlos Acosta here after. So any shout-outs for us here tonight?
Got to shout out Will and Layton. Will's been top 10, I think, all night so far. He's had a good run. Layton's working his way forward slowly. Just glad they're still in it. Glad they didn't get caught, and I hope they finish well.
Gotcha. Your Abbott Motorsports boys out there working hard tonight. And Brent at home, I need to shout Brent out. He is in the YouTube chat, so I know he was hoping that the Ka-Chow paint scheme was going to provide us a little more excitement tonight.
Well, it brought us some excitement. It's just not the excitement you would have hoped there.
All All right. Well, we'll see you later, Corey. Good luck out there if you get back, and if not, we'll see you next week, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
We also grab Carlos Acosta while we have him. And Carlos, good to see you, buddy, but not in this capacity. What happened out there, man?
I'm frustrated, but I have no one to be frustrated at. Just a victim of circumstances. I had a feeling there was going to be a wreck, and I had a really good angle when I saw Jeff spinning, so I knew that there was a wreck. I immediately started slowing down. I did everything right until my teammates check up and they're wrecking. I slowed down. I got through it, but I think Tate and somebody else went to the inside wall, and when they ricocheted back up towards the racetrack, it hit like 2 of the cars, and then one of them just clobbered me into the wall. And I got something I haven't gotten since like 2012. I got too much damage. We're done notification. So
Wow.
I'm not going back out there as much as I want to. I would have finished this even if I'm limping. And I'm really frustrated. I have a charter, so I'm not like racing for points, but I'm at a point where I'm racing now. Right? Even though I'm not too fast, I'm still out there. I want to get as many positions as I can, and it felt good in that first run. And I knew what I had to work on and what to improve. And just unfortunate that my day is done this early into the race.
Anything for Carlos there, James?
Yeah, Carlos. I just want to say it's really cool to see you out on track and being out there. It's a shame what happened to you, but do you think you might be making any more races here after this?
Yeah, I mean, I want to keep the charter, so I plan to do all the races. The only ones I'm dreading are the road races because I'm just not good at those. But
Same, buddy.
all I have to do is just show up, and if I show up, even if I run one lap, I think I'm still going to try to run as much as I can.
Gotcha, man. Well, we'll see you next week, Carlos, and I hope it gets better in terms of luck there for you, buddy.
Yeah, sure.
There's Carlos Acosta, driver of the 02 Inca Cola RK Motorsports Chevrolet, and back up front we have a lengthy single file train, kind of like we did in the first run there. James. Blake Reynolds is the race leader. Jonathan Cutlip and Ethan Stanley had battled for second briefly. Ethan Stanley, the car that has driven back past Cutlip and worked to the back bumper of Blake Reynolds, the former Coke Series Pro. In fact, here comes Stanley for the race lead. Reynolds shuts the door. Behind.
Yeah.
Well, okay, go ahead, James.
I'm a little surprised that he's trying to fight. Well, actually, that is right, because we're not that far from the end of the stage. So yeah, there's stage points on offer. So it makes absolute sense that he's trying to fight to get by Reynolds right now.
Not the only fight on track. Tyler Fode jumps to the inside of Chad Frankenfield there for the 7th position, rather, and he'll fight for that slot. That may lose the draft for the 40 and the 15 just behind this front group. And William White's looking on. We heard Corey Abbott mention his teammate. I do want to shout out William White. He was driving a car yesterday dedicated to his dad. Said his dad passed away recently, so we're hoping that William is all right and he's able to race hard and put together a good finish. He might want to get away from these two fighting in front of him, though, if he wants to put that good finish together. Might the Brit William White, because Fode and Chad bouncing off of each other, but ultimately Tyler Fode does come away with that 7th spot, and William's going to have to tuck in line.
Yeah, I think they might be okay draft-wise. It's super close. They battled a little too long. Yeah, I don't like that gap. I think it might be nervous times here for the rest of that pack trying to get back in the draft.
Luckily for them, it's Tyler Fode leading the way. It's one of the faster cars, I think, in this field. And Chad's very quick here at Indianapolis. Fode was telling me before the race today that he thought Chad would have a pretty good chance to race well and be fast today. And there's a battle for the race lead going on up front. Among those guys that Fode thought were going to be strong today, his teammate Ethan Stanley was obviously one of them, but Blake Reynolds another. And Stanley took a look on the outside, entering turn 1 that time through, unable to get it done. And Blake Reynolds retains the lead, but Stanley's putting a lot of pressure on Blake Reynolds right here.
Yeah, he needs those points. He's got to do anything he can to try to see if he can sneak past Blake here.
I think part of the reason that he's so desperate to get there, and I think you can probably verify, is that clean air in this next gen car is super important. You know, I think whoever has the lead is able to manage their tires the best. And so if you're driving in the wake of somebody else, you're tighter naturally, you're grinding the right front away. I think Ethan Stanley wants to be in front. He knows he can be in front, and so he's hunting down Blake Reynolds and putting pressure on him.
Absolutely. Clean air is absolutely king. And
sorry, Chad got into Tyler Fode, sent him sideways and up the racetrack back there for 7.
Whoa.
That battle continues to rage on, and they have definitely lost that first pack now. They're a second back, and Tyler's bouncing off of Chad down the back straightaway. This battle will not go away. Chad's going to take the spot over there entering turn 3. William White and Fode will now be side by side, and Fode does clear in front of William White. We'll pick up Tate Lytle here from the infield care center once this battle calms down a little bit. I think Tyler Fode's going to go back after Chad Frankenfield, though, right here.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to sit back there for long.
Right. Fode and Chad have already bounced off each other a couple of different times in this one, and I imagine Fode's none too pleased with the driver of the 15. I think probably an equal amount of anger from the 15 back to the 40. But right now, it looks like Chad's able to drive away from Fode a little bit.
Yeah, you wonder if Fode might try to just ride a little bit, save fuel, since you already lost the draft anyway, so might as well try to ride and see if you can eke out a little bit of fuel save while you're here. You still got like almost coming to 15 to go to the end of the stage.
Right. I wonder, but it looks like Chad's able to pull away for a little bit here, and so with this brief respite on battling, although Ethan Stanley's going for the race lead up front into turn 1. So never mind on the respite. Blake Reynolds trying to hold off Ethan Stanley up on the outside lane, but Stanley will have to again dive inside and get back into the draft for turn 2. Now I'll grab Tate Lytle and bring him to the booth. And Tate, it looked to me like you had absolutely nowhere to go, buddy. Take us through your night there.
Yeah, these early races are a little rough because I don't get a chance to really feel down the car before I go into qualifying, and had top 5 qualifying run going there, and got in the fence on the second lap and ended up starting back there. And was just kind of riding, and next thing I know, I see Jeff spinning, and I see him lock him up, but when he got in the grass and locked him up, it's like kind of shot him back up the track, and I went to go left, and I think Corey just had nowhere to go, and it shot him down into me, and I got in the tires and got upside down. I tried to keep it going, but I popped a tire like 4 laps in. I don't think it was gonna be worth my time to be 8 laps down. So yeah, not a lot we could have done. If we stay straight, we T-bone Jeff, and I guess hindsight, that probably would have been better than what we did. But yeah, a bummer for days gone by. IMJD Designs, and yeah, I mean, I think we finished second this race last time, and it's one of my favorite tracks just because it's more of like I feel like it's more of a chess match with how you get the runs and paths, and didn't really get a chance to even race, so it's kind of a bummer, but at least it's now and not lap 158. So
Anything for Tate there, James?
I just take us through the ride you took, because that was one of the craziest crashes we've seen in recent times. So I just kind of want to know what it was like, riding in the car and being like, okay, I'm crashing. Oh, hey, I'm upside down now.
yeah, well, I've been upside down before. Yeah, you see right here how it kind of just shoots Jeff right, and so I'm just hoping Corey can. If Corey clears him, we're good. And unfortunately, he just was too far up, wasn't able to. And I mean, at this point, you're toast. And then, yeah, kind of a bummer we ended up upside down. But I flipped last year at New Hampshire and was able to fix it and get my 2 laps back. And I think I got a top 5 out of the deal.
You sure did.
Which is BS, if you ask me, that it's even able to be done. But I was like, well, maybe this will be another one of those days. But not the case. So, but
Gotcha.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, shout out Brett Wednesday's gone by, and I don't think my dad even had a chance to turn on the broadcast tonight. I told him it's not worth your time. I just wrecked.
All
But
right.
we got these 2 pro drivers up there, Reynolds and Stanley. Hopefully, someone can dethrone one of them. But I don't know. It's tough to pass. And the problem is, once you pass one guy, you kind of fall back like a second because you're side drafted each other, and it just slows you down so much. So it's gonna be a tough track position game, and if I had to guess, your winner's gonna come out of that top 5 or that 8th place car. Maybe RC. I don't know if anyone else really has anything. I bet it's one of those top 2 unless they take each other out, Truex and Kyle Busch style. So
We could open it up later, but appreciate it, Tate. I'll see you tomorrow, and the rest of us
Yeah.
will see you next week.
yeah, maybe I can flip it over again tomorrow.
We'll do it, or we'll either win or we'll flip trying. How about that?
Sounds good. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys.
Tate Lytle, driver of the number 56 Pro Edge Toyota. And we do have a battle for this lead. It's been kind of this, right? It's a lot like what Tate said, the chess match style, where Stanley keeps attempting to pass, not getting it done, then having to hold Cutlip off in order to get the run back to Blake Reynolds. And Reynolds is just holding his line, running his clean laps. And ultimately, it's not allowing for anything here. So we are running into a little bit of a connection gremlin, I think, on Dave's end. But not to on my screen, everybody's there. So it's the blinking issue is on our end. They're not the drivers. Stanley just got it really loose coming off of turn 2. We didn't have a good angle for it, but he started smoking the right rear tire. The other thing I want to point out of this front group, it's one car bigger. Chad Frankenfield got by Tyler Fody and has driven all the way up to the back bumper of Gavin Hibbs rather. Sorry. So impressive drive for Chad. And then, yeah, I wanted to mention the presence of Gavin Hibbs in this front group because he's a guy that's pretty fast. He's had a lot of good runs in this Elite Cup Series. This is a guy that's bounced it off the wall a bunch of times at this track and at other tracks, and has just not been able to complete a win or even really put together a whole lot of good runs in this series. And right now he's having a good one. So my thought is, can Gavin Hibbs put it all together finally? He's got the William Byron scheme on. He's running in the top 5. What we saw on Sunday was if you're William Byron and you're somewhere near the front, you might just win the race.
Yeah, and just going back a bit earlier, I'm really impressed with what Chad was able to do. Like, you really don't see that often. It's not easy once you lose the draft to just absolutely drive up and just grab it back yourself. It definitely helped out with all the hardcore battling up front. It's not just the top 2 that lose speed when there's a battle for the lead. Everyone else in the pack has to check up and maintain the runs themselves. And It looks like Blake is starting to pull away here. It looks like Stanley just burned off a little more right front tire, and now he's really got Cutlip trying to take second place himself.
Cutlip's trying to get around, but I think Cutlip's running into the same issues. And I think you're right, is that Chad Frankenfield's running up on this entire group. It's not just Gavin Hibbs that he's jumping up on. It's this whole group. They've raced really hard for second and slowed down, I think, kind of collectively. And that has ultimately allowed for Chad to make that ground. So, my question now is, Matthew Weeks is, I know you're not super familiar with Weeks. He's a 2-time champion in this series. A former winner of this race, like I mentioned. That's a guy that is extremely good tire saver. He is never overdriving that 11 car. And if Matthew Weeks is saving the right front tire right here, I imagine in about 5 or 10 laps, that car will start to go faster and kind of blow away these guys that he's kind of trapped behind right now. So my thought is that Weeks is saving and he'll be able to pull up on them, but never mind. Caution's out. I don't know where that yellow flag is coming from. That's going to be a savior for Chris Wright. He was a couple laps away from having to pit. It was Jeff Green and William White, it looks like. Not William White. It was Jesse Racimus,
Oh.
Gavin Hibbs.
Oh.
So Higgins and Racimus make contact, and then it's Jeff going into Racimus. That continues the wreck. Dustin Dewar, I believe, got a piece of it as well. Yeah, that was Dustin Dewar who got into that one. And looks like that contact hit, and Jeff just did not have time to react there. Wound up into Jesse and Gavin. Yeah, I don't know that he was anticipating the 13 slowing down quite so much, but if that goes on Jeff, that would be his second tally. He would wind up out of this race based on the rules there.
Yeah, it just looked like the 13 just locks up the brakes going into the corner and just slides right up into Jesse.
Yeah.
Like you can see a whole lot of smoke coming from the right front right as he's about at the apex of the corner.
Yeah, it's pretty much. Yeah, that's just
left front. My bad.
Right, but Gavin was definitely on the brakes there. I mean, Gavin's a rookie. He's darn fast, but that's definitely one of those things where this late in the run, I just don't know if you can make that deep dive into turn one to try and pick up a spot. And then he makes the contact with Racimus, and once he does that, Jeff gets into him. Ultimately, kind of innocent bystander was Racimus, and then ultimately also Dustin Dewar in this one.
Yeah, the brakes in this car are also really weird and temperamental. Like, they lock up really easily and in really strange ways if you're not too careful, especially late in a run where your tires are just not good.
Right. Dustin Dewar sliding into it there. The entire field is down pit road this time. No one is taking no tires. Now, I would like to see someone take 2 tires. I think that would be my call right here, especially with the stage looming in 3 or 4 laps. Once we go back to green, you're going to want that track position, even if you're only able to hold it for a couple of seconds. And Matthew Weeks slid through his box. So that's not going to help anything. See if anybody gets in front of these guys. Doesn't look like it. Nick Massey's off pretty quickly. Chad, I think, might have taken 2. No, I think everybody took 4, actually. I think the way they came off pit road, everybody took 4. It's going to be Stanley first off. Then Cutlip, Reynolds, Ethan Burrell, and Matthew Weeks, the top 5. Is the timing and scoring right there? Did Chris Wright stay out again? I don't think he...
And he got enough fuel to come back out. To wave his black flag, give him the EOL, and then I think he may have already pitted and took it, and he's going to take the EOL.
Okay, yeah. He might have been close to running out of fuel, would Chris Wright. So I don't think Chris is going to start up front this time, but he did save the set of tires. He ultimately got what he was looking for. The caution came out kind of right around the time he would have needed to pit. It's not going to, I don't think, work out in terms of track position, but, he's, like you said, he's got the set. He can come down and take tires pretty much every time the rest of the way on these caution flags and try and have an advantage and be on the attack pretty much the whole entire race. But, he did prove one thing, and that's you can stay out if you have 10 or 12 laps in your tires. I think any more than that is going to be difficult to control as we watch Chris come to pit road, and we note that Gavin Higgins is the driver that picks up the EOL there for that contact with Racimus that ultimately leads to the caution flag.
Tally, no EOL.
So this is not the caution, the stage caution, right, Dave? They did not.
I have not heard no.
All right, so we will be racing back to the stage. It'll be 3 to go to the stage once we go back green, I believe. I think we'll go back next time by. So while we pace around this 2.5 mile speedway, why don't we take yet another commercial break? Unless we're 1 to green. If we're 1 to green, let's not. And I think we are 1 to green, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say the lights are out on the pace car.
Yeah, they are. So let's not do that. Let's get ready for the restart. And this is a restart with 3 laps to go in a stage. The top 10 are going to get points. 10 points for first place, 9 for second, all the way down to 1 point for 10th. And these guys, I think, are going to fight pretty hard for those points. All the guys at the front of the field are guys that are in the front of our points format. Ethan Stanley, Tyler Fode, Blake Reynolds have pretty much dominated the season. They've been top 5, top 10 in all of the races so far. You know, Burrell's been up there a lot. Weeks has been up there. Weeks actually needs some points. Weeks is probably one of the few guys who, in this group, that does need some more stage points and maybe needs to act with some aggressiveness, and that's a guy that typically does not race aggressively, especially early in a run. So I will be interested to see if Matthew Weeks puts things together, because to his outside is one of the most aggressive drivers in our sport, and that's Chad Frankenfield in the 15. So off turn 4, onto the famous front straightaway. Pace car will dive to pit road, and we'll get ready to wrap up stage 1. Ethan Stanley and Jonathan Cutlip, the front row, just in front of Blake Reynolds and Ethan Burrell. The green flag is out. Stanley gets on the loud pedal, gets a big jump. Reynolds pushing Cutlip through on the bottom of the racetrack, and Cutlip will clear to second, but it's all Ethan Stanley into turn 1. Single file, 1st through 4th. Matthew Weeks working to the inside of Chad Frankenfield for that 5th spot. He will take it and clear up high. Single file through 8th now. You know, you talked about the IndyCar style of this, and Ethan Stanley's running it like an IndyCar. He's doing the IndyCar weave down the straightaway, so these guys can't get draft on him.
Yeah, it's always kind of amusing seeing that in a stock car. Personally, I've never really liked the snake. You know, I'm tired of this something snake on this something racetrack, but you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, and it seems to be working pretty well for the most part. He's hold and serve with 2 laps to go on the stage.
That time Cutlip just ran the outside, did not want to follow along in the snake. Oh, Wadsworth in the wall in the back. Chad Frankenfield took over the 5th spot from Matthew Weeks. I mentioned that aggressiveness. Chad is running with some aggressiveness right here, trying to go after the race lead. Here comes Jonathan Cutlip to the outside of Ethan Stanley. He's got a push from Blake Reynolds. Jonathan Cutlip working to the outside and challenging for the lead for the first time today. He's on the top, door slamming with Stanley. He's gonna get there. Oh, Reynolds to the bottom, looking for 3 wide. Off turn 4, John Cutlip to the race lead. Big push from Ethan Burrell to the back bumper of Blake Reynolds. Cutlip at the line. He'll lead the white flag lap in the stage. Oh. Here comes Blake Reynolds, 3 wide on the inside. Oh! Stanley got a little bit low. Reynolds is going to be in the preferred spot entering turn 2. There's still 3 wide for this stage lead. Here comes Reynolds and Stanley side by side.
Oh, these are some haymakers being thrown.
Tate mentioned it was tough passing. It was not tough passing when you're firing it in there like this and getting big bump drafts down the straightaway. Reynolds clears with a big push from Cutlip. Blake Reynolds might be your stage winner now after that push. Let's see if anybody can challenge back. Through turn 4, Blake Reynolds will come down the front straightaway and pick up a stage win. I believe his 2nd of the season. Oh, Stanley and Cutlip crash on the front straightaway. Stanley's going to be around. Cutlip sideways. And I think it's Wadsworth. Either Wadsworth or Rogers nailed Jonathan Cutlip. Stage is over, and Cutlip and Stanley did not get stage points.
Ah,
a big wreck.
The injury.
Cutlip's going to be the one, I think, to get more damage here.
Oh,
and Stanley ends up the one being behind on his steering. I couldn't tell if John came up or if Stanley came down. Looks like Stanley's coming down.
Yeah.
I think Stanley's coming down across Jonathan Cutlip. And for a guy who's made effectively no mistakes for the first 3 races, he went first, second, first. A big mistake here on the front straightaway takes him out, takes Cutlip out, and I can't tell if that's Wadsworth or Rogers that just clobbered Jonathan Cutlip. Both it was a red and white car, and they're both running like nose to tail. Yeah, they're both still running, so I don't know which one of them got into him. Let's watch what happened to Cutlip here after this. And yeah, Stanley's going to get the tally. That is the right call. RC Anderson squeaks by on the outside. Cutlip hits the line right there. He will get 8th place stage points, and it is Zach Rogers who makes the contact with Cutlip. Yeah, Rogers does have left front damage. He's heading to pit road now. He missed getting points in the stage by 2 spots.
And
I think that's all that was involved in the wreck. For getting sideways on the front straightaway in Indianapolis, coming to the stage line where people were going to be in it, flooring it, to only really wreck 3 cars is pretty remarkable. And as we talk, you'd mentioned with Tate Lytle, the complexion of the race has definitely changed. One of the aliens, but really 2 of the faster cars that we've seen here tonight have wadded it up on the front straightaway. And
yeah,
they're gonna change the way this race finishes.
Yeah, it kind of opens it up pretty significantly. Like, obviously Blake is still super quick, but like that's 2 heavy hitters and a few other good drivers taken out on that. It's going to be interesting to see who exactly benefits from this.
I think the biggest beneficiary is going to be that car that's running second right now, Chad Frankenfield. He had already started to make his ground up. He won, I believe, our last Indy 500 in the Elite Racing League. So, Chad is on the move right now, and 2 of his biggest competitors in this race just got taken out. So he's going to be battling against Blake Reynolds, and I wouldn't count out either of those 2 guys behind him, Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks. They're both very quick as well, but Chad's definitely got a good shot here.
Yeah, he's been fast all night long. I'm really curious to see how's this going to work, and if he's going to be able to really take the fight to Blake here.
Right. He hasn't been in this spot where he can fight for clean air. And, when he got clean air, he was able to run times faster than the leaders and make up ground on that front pack. So, very interesting spot to be in here. We'll re-rack it and I believe get the 1 to green at this line. And that'll mean that Blake Reynolds and Chad Frankenfield will be on the front row leading us to the green. Next time by, it'll be Ethan Burrell and Matthew Weeks, 3rd and 4th. Gavin Hibbs and Tyler Fody, 5th and 6th. Then it's RC Anderson and Scott Crump, Nick Massey and Justin Wadsworth to round out the top 10.
Going back to the wreck, though, it's just terrifying. This is one of the worst places you can wreck when there's a big one happening at the front stretch in Indianapolis, because you just can't. You can't see because of smoke, and you have nowhere to go. You're just putting your car where you think you should put it and just absolutely praying. There's nothing more terrifying.
Right. And we've had a couple of those in this one. And, ultimately, that last one was, we managed to make it out pretty clean. I think only really 3 cars picking up any sort of significant damage, and even some of those guys with significant damage like Cutlip and Rogers, Stanley's car looks pretty clean to me. There's definitely damage on it, but I would not count Ethan Stanley out of this race just yet.
No, never.
He's extremely quick. He's shown to be very resilient. Last season, he lagged out of a race, came back and won it. So, there's this one's not over. As long as Stanley's got 4 wheels and a motor capable of driving, I would envision he's got a chance to win this race.
Agreed, 100%.
So, let's see if anybody's got anything for Blake Reynolds. Reynolds had been kind of in that class with Cutlip and Stanley. Now that his 2 biggest competitors have fallen by the wayside, can the Coke Series Pro pick up his first Elite Racing Belly Up Sports Cup Series victory in the Decor Depot Brickyard 400? Pace car is off lap, coming to lap 54 of 160. Stage 1 is done. We will start effectively stage 2 now. Green flag is out. On the loud pedal goes Reynolds, and a really good restart for Chad Frankenfield. He stays alongside that 66. Into turn one, Chad trying to fight for that clean air. On the outside of Reynolds, Reynolds and Chad door bang on the exit of turn one. Here comes Chad Frankenfield looking for the race lead at Indianapolis. Down the back straightaway, it's all the same. Ethan Burrell looking to see who he wants to bump draft to this race lead. He kind of doesn't pick anyone, and Chad's going to continue to fight for it on that outside lane. Off turn three. Outside lane looks to have the advantage.
Yeah, that's the preferred line right now. He's kind of sitting in the catbird seat.
He needs those Pro Edge Toyotas to get together and start moving forward and give him the kind of the bump on the straightaway past Reynolds. Right now, they're just kind of holding each other back, but nobody's getting to the back bumper to be able to shove them forward. And there's certainly not as much urgency as there was on the last restart with the stage points looming. But Chad's fighting for the clean air right now. Like, he's got to get in front of Reynolds here. This fight is the fight to effectively lead this whole run.
Yeah, and
Massey and Gable sideways out of turn two. Everything's all right back there. Chad's still fighting Reynolds for the lead. Chad's still making it work on that outside lane, but how much of this is hurting those tires on this 15 car is the other thing you got to take into consideration. You probably can't make that outside work for too long, and now Chad does have to give it up. I think if you're Chad, I'm a little mad about it. Ethan and Weeks, they just didn't get to pushing enough to get him the run past Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, this is just worst case scenario, because not only did you absolutely burn your tires off, you were also stuck in second and getting the dirty air from Blake now. So it's just all kinds of hurt to your tires now.
Yeah, I mean, Chad's not known for his tire saving. We'll just put it that way. He's certainly one of those guys that burns the tires off rather easily in these next gen cars, and it puts Chad in a spot where he could potentially maybe hunt for the stage win and maybe short pit, try and pit around lap 30 of this run, try and get the jump on Blake and Ethan and those guys. But I imagine it's going to be really tough for him to make this pass around Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, now that Blake's got the outside, it's not going to be easy. I think the way I would do it is to just kind of, sit right now, try to save fuel, try to be easy on the tires as much as you can in the wake, and try to take the disadvantage of being in second and use it to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. And Chad doesn't seem to care about that.
No, Blake is like YOLO.
Yep. Well, Chad's going for the race lead on the bottom right now, hunting after Blake Reynolds. He's got it. Chad Frankenfield to the race lead. Reynolds did not want to run the top.
What a move.
So Chad gets to the rear bumper of Reynolds and makes the pass and give Chad the race lead. He'll get that bonus point for leading a lap right here. He gets the clean air. I don't think Reynolds wanted to give that up, but I feel like he didn't have a choice once Chad got to the inside. As Blake seems unwilling to run that top. Chad was willing to run it. And I haven't seen Blake leave that white line.
Which is wild, because we saw him defend Ethan Stanley on the outside for how many laps?
Right. So, yeah, he did run it prior in this, but right there was not willing.
I imagine Blake is probably going with the strategy I would have employed that I talked about a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. He's just gonna, because with how hard Chad is pushing, Blake is probably like, I don't want to push that hard. There's no reason. I'm just gonna burn my stuff up. So what you do in that scenario is be like, all right, you know what? You go burn your stuff off. I'm just gonna chill right here.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Chad is, and that's something Chad's known for, right? He's known for when he gets up front, he's pretty fast. He's able to lead, and he's led a lot of laps in this race specifically. Chad Frankenfield has led a lot of laps, but it has come back to bite him a lot of times because he pushes a little bit too hard, winds up burning the tires off, and then ends up getting in a bad spot trying to defend on older tires. It happened last year in that race that Matthew Weeks won. Chad was right on pace with Weeks and Lytle, pulled out to a 2 or 3 second lead, and then those guys just ran him down and blew by him. So Chad's just got to be careful here. Gotta maintain that gap back to Blake so that he doesn't, wouldn't think overdrive the car. But, like I said, early in the race, Tyler Fody gave me a Chad Frankenfield as a name to watch today because he was like, look, he was fast the last time we were here. If Chad gets the lead, he knows what to do with it. He can definitely lead this race. And here he is right here out front. And it's not like he started here, right? Qualified 16th. He's had to work his way forward. So an impressive drive for Chad Frankenfield.
Unbelievably impressive drive.
Sorry, just taking a swig of water. Crash for Gerald Campbell in the back. Actually, I don't think Gerald did crash, but he very nearly did. We'll call it a wreck that didn't happen for Donald the Eagle and Gerald Campbell. See if you can get us a replay, Dave, of Gerald coming off a turn 2 last time. That's all right. That's Gerald just about sent this thing straight into the inside wall and managed to hang on to it. Yeah, this car, that thing was loose before he even got on the straightaway. And he's aimed right at the same spot Tate Lytle hit earlier, and he managed to pull it back around.
Yeah, lucky for him, because as we saw earlier, that could have ended very, very painfully.
Gerald able to get back going there. He is 17th. Now just behind a Leighton Norgard, who was another car we saw loose off turn 2 early in the race. Norgard's made a pretty good recovery drive there. Up front, the gaps are the same from Frankenfield, Reynolds, Burrell, Weeks, and Fody. Then it's Hibbs, Scott Crump, R.C. Anderson, Justin Wadsworth, and William White, the top 10. I do want to make a call to Justin Wadsworth, last year's champion, running up here in 9th spot. Wadsworth started 37th in this race. He has made it forward in a race that we saw. We heard Tate Lytle say it's tough to pass. It's not super easy to gain spots. Justin Wadsworth's gained the most spots on track. He's gone from 37th up to 9th for this Lake Norman Motorsports stable that has won the last 6 Cup Series races, including one that Wadsworth did win last season at Kentucky. It's been a really solid, impressive run for Justin, last year's champion, and he needs the points. He's had a couple of rough races here to start the season, including sandwiching around. He's had a couple of good races, sandwiching around a very rough Kentucky race in which he finished in the 40s. So Wadsworth's looking for some points to try and keep that up, and it looks like it's going well for the St. Jude number 6 so far tonight.
Yeah, there's always one guy that just, in the races where you can't seem to pass, there's always that one guy that can just pass like it's no effort whatsoever. And that's Justin tonight. This is an unbelievable run.
It's a good run so far. Housekeeping notes, Jonathan Cutlip and Zach Rogers have both retired from the race after the incident there on the front straightaway. They'll finish back in 36th and 37th, respectively. And then we only have one car, or we have 2 cars running that are laps down, only 1 car, 1 lap down. That'll be Jesse Racinas currently, who was in that wreck with Gavin Higgins and Jeff Green earlier in the race. Progress on an update on Ethan Stanley. He has risen to 27th, currently side by side back there with Ty McIntosh, just in front of Michael Hosak. So Stanley's working his way forward, but it's not super fast. And that would indicate to me that the 91 car is a little bit damaged.
Yeah, because you would have expected him to get through the field a lot quicker. So the fact that he's still where he's at, yeah, that car is probably not doing what he wants it to right now.
He's also mired in traffic. That's not helping. Jeff Green, Gavin Higgins, Chris Wright, all guys he's around right now. He's 3 wide, so we moved to the right spot. 3 wide, Higgins up the track into Chris Wright. Almost a crash. Wright able to get around Higgins, but Stanley able to get around all of them, and that car might be all right. He might be okay. Aggressive move, something he was able to make stick. And we have a spinner. It's Gilberto Javier Gomera in the 85 for Shift Esports, and that will bring out the caution. he got loose coming off a 3 and started doing the fish tail and spun this 85 car around.
Yeah,
That was the caution, right, Dave?
Unfortunately, Gilberto is the latest employee at the Tony Kanon Landscaping Company.
Down in turn 3. Yeah, that's an incident we've seen not bring out a yellow yet, and we've seen a couple of guys get loose and hang on to it. Gilberto kind of the first one to get loose and lose it. And this next gen car is a beast, man. I've seen Gilberto run a lot of races in other cars, and he's certainly not had that kind of issue, but it's something new you'll see with guys who are fresh to this next gen car. You'll get that behind on that steering, that rack and pinion steering, and it's just a little bit easier to loop it on corner exit.
Yep.
So with go ahead, James.
I was going to say, like I said, this car has a mind of its own sometimes. Like, you can never truly predict what it wants to do. You're just holding on for dear life.
So that's right. So while we have this caution here, this 5th caution, let's throw it to our ads once again. When we get back, we'll interview John Cutlip and then get to the restart.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Den Decor Depot Brickyard 400, and out of the infield care center, we've pulled Jonathan Cutlip. And John, you know, we saw you and Stanley racing for the stage pretty hard. What happened out there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened. Have to talk to him about it later, but I just ended up just wrecking on a straightaway. And I'm not really sure how we managed that, but we did.
Yeah, to me, it looked like a case of just a little bit of a misjudgment on his part. But, he was definitely ruled the tally probably in the wrong. So, I think you crossed the line and got some stage points, so there is that consolation. But, what's your plans in terms of, continuing on to next week?
Yeah, I just have to see where it goes. I'm not even sure where we're racing next week, but I just have to see how it goes. Been a lot of fun racing with our group, just hanging around, just chit-chatting during the race, and I had a good battle with Blake and Weeks and Ethan Burrell. We were all up there battling and just having a good time, and unfortunately it cut a little short tonight.
Gotcha. Well, in Michigan next week, so hopefully we'll see you back here after a podium or maybe one of them elusive wins.
Yeah, Michigan's a fun track when the conditions are right. Have to see. could be going up from the seam to the wall. So hopefully the race is good next week.
Gotcha. Well, we'll see you next week, John, and we appreciate the paint schemes and everything as always. So, hopefully you have a little more fortune next week.
Yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully we're giving you guys a show towards the end. It was a lot of fun with Reynolds and Stanley racing 3 wide for the stage. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. It was fun to call. So hopefully you can keep that up next week. And hate that you got wrapped up in an incident out of your own making there, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
That was John Cutlip, driver of the number 5 for Field Up Racing. And he will finish back in the field. He did get those stage points, though, so all was not lost. But an unfortunate end to Cutlip's night. And as we bring James back in, Chad Frankenfield on the front row. He'll be fighting with Blake Reynolds once again. Ethan Burrell and Matthew Weeks in row 2. Gavin Hibbs and Tyler Fody in row 3. If you're Chad right here, James, you got to hold off a Coke Series Pro. You got the outside on this restart. You want to go early in this restart box or late?
Normally I would go early, but you don't want to give the rest of the field a huge head of speed down the back straightaway when they catch you up. But it's worth the risk to me. I'd go early.
See if Chad listens to you. Pace car off. Lap 68 of 160 on the board. We will have another stage at lap 100. I believe everyone can make it from here. And Chad went real early in the zone. Think he was listening to you. That pulls Ethan Burrell through. And Burrell will clear for second. So Reynolds falls back to third on the restart. Gavin Hibbs moves up to 5th spot. He's going to hunt for 4th off turn 2. He will not get it. They're side by side from 7th on back. The front 6 single file. And Chad Frankenfield leads us off turn 2. Back there, Ethan Stanley is 3 wide with Dustin Dewar. And I think that's Jeff Green. He's going to end up falling back in line. Stanley still on the charge, still fighting in a hornet's nest back there, but still moving forward in that 91 car. He's up to 22nd.
Yeah, hornet's nest is putting it mildly.
He got by Dusty Dewar and Jeff Green, so move Stanley up to 20th. Up in front of them, Scott Crump, Ryan Gable down to the inside of R.C. Enerson. Crump's going to try to clear Enerson, sails it off into turn 1. And that battle will rage on through the short, shooting down to turn 2. Crump and Enerson continue to race side by side. This is the battle for 8th. Give it to Enerson. Outside line prevails once again. The Lake Norman teammates will have to regroup just behind. Dusty Dewar got a piece of the wall down the back straightaway. Lost several spots. And the big group battling at the rear of this field continues to do so side by side from about 20th on back. 24th on back, it looks like. That's where Jess Story is running side by side with Justin Vandermarl. That's the whole group right here that's kind of, you talk about how the guys side draft each other and lose the draft. This is a great way, if you're running in the rear of the field, to lose the draft. And these guys are just trying to make up as many spots as they can before that kind of next caution hits and try to put themselves in the best spot possible. But when you're racing like this, you're just going to slow yourself down.
Yeah, it really kind of, you really got to stop and sit and wonder how much you really want to fight at this point in the race. There's still a lot of time left to go, a lot of time before the next stage. Whoa.
I thought Jeff was going to get into Ryan Schuld right there, ultimately able to back out of it.
I think we all did.
Battle for 4th ongoing here as we shift forward. Gavin Hibbs down to the inside of Matthew Weeks for that 4th spot. Hibbs in that William Byron livery, trying to work it there for Strictly Stock Motorsport. Solo team car there for Gavin Hibbs, trying to kind of pull together that solo entry and make it happen without teammates this year. Last year he was with the Shift Esports group that featured, Ty McIntosh and Seth Rawls and those guys. So Hibbs, changing gears a little bit, and it's worked out for him a little bit, but he's had some not so impressive results to start this season as the battle for the race lead is on. Ethan Burrell and Chad Frankenfield side by side. Burrell down to the bottom, Frankenfield up top, and Reynolds is going to jump to the bottom and get around Chad as Burrell goes to the race lead. It's interesting. Chad was unable to hold them back really at all. I'm not sure what happened there. It seems like he's still falling. It's like he lost momentum on this car and just wasn't able to get it back.
Yeah, now it's just he's perpetually losing. Negative feedback cycle.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and see if he might have hit the wall or something. Trying to block Hibbs down the racetrack, but that's just, he's not in a good spot anymore. I don't think he hit the wall or anything. I just think this car just is falling off a little bit. And now he's in a battle for third, side by side with Hibbs. Tyler Fody drafting Matthew Weeks up to this battle for that third spot. Hibbs trying to take it over from Chad Frankenfield. Frankenfield fighting Hibbs a little bit harder than he fought Burrell or Reynolds. Able to side draft that 95 back, but this is just slowing the both of them down and allowing Burrell and Reynolds to drive away.
Yeah, they're going to lose themselves the top two. This is too much side drafting.
Yep. Now Weeks is alongside Hibbs. That's able to slow down that 95 car. Weeks will get to the back bumper of Chad Frankenfield and push him out ahead of Gavin Hibbs. And Hibbs loses 2 spots in that ordeal. So Chad didn't really fight either of the first two when they got alongside of him. But then as soon as Hibbs got there, it's almost like Chad was realized, like, oh, I have to fight for this. I got to side draft. I got to try to hold my track position. And then he slowed him down a ton.
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing about draft type tracks like this is you're having to rely so much on everyone playing nice, and if someone doesn't want to play nice, you're completely hosed on track position and the gaps of the cars around.
Right. You need people to, if they get in line like this, right, and somebody goes side by side, you want them to pull up, and if you're on that outside lane, you want that outside lane to pull up and shove you forward, right, and stop the battle. And that's just not what happened. It's really not. It's what hasn't happened to Chad anytime he's been fighting for the lead. And when Chad's been out by himself, what's happening right now is what's happened every single time. He's driven away from once they go single file. It's when Chad's been side by side that's pulled him back. Weeks and Hibbs battling now, and Weeks is a guy known for saving the tires. So anytime Weeks lets a car go in front, that's my automatic thought, is that Weeks is really rolling out of the gas early, trying to keep that right front on this 11 car as clean as possible. There is a battle down the back straightaway here between Anderson and Wadsworth. Anderson ducks in line back behind last season's champion. Chad ran the front two down already. I don't know, man. Very odd what happened there on those couple of laps where he was losing spots, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That is wild.
See if Chad can run him down here. He gained 0.3 on Ethan Burrell that last lap. So the battle for the lead starting to heat up once again. Reynolds has caught to the Ethan Burrell back bumper. And Chad Frankenfield has run him all the way down from, 0.8 of a second back. So this is a lot of speed in this 15 car. I'm not sure why when he lost the lead, he dropped all the way back and didn't really fight for it until he got side by side with Hibbs. And then he really fought for it and, forced those guys back off.
Ethan asked him on driver chat what the deal was, and Chad said he got tied out of 4, kind of had to let off to stay out of the wall and just lost his momentum.
There you go. And this next gen car is very momentum based. So even one corner like that can really derail a couple of laps, it looks like. And Chad's been able to recover nicely. I've seen guys struggle to recover off of that, but he's he's got the single car pace to be able to get this done.
Yeah, now they've absolutely set sail from the rest of the field.
Hibbs took fourth from Matthew Weeks right there, so there was some battling side by side while that was occurring as well. And you can see on our ticker here, they've lost 0.2 a lap since Chad got back by Gavin Hibbs and started driving away. It's a 3-car battle for this stage point. It's ultimately 22 laps away still, but that's certainly within a realm of you have to start planning out your move if you are in this top 3. How does Ethan Burrell defend from Blake Reynolds and Chad Frankenfield here for the last 21 laps through this stage? And how does Chad Frankenfield and Blake Reynolds attack to try and pick up this stage win? I do believe these guys can make it all the way on fuel. I don't think that's a concern.
Yeah, if I was Chad, I'd just ride. You're kind of in the catbird seat, just ride as best as you can. But I don't know if he's starting to fall off a little bit, but that the gap from him to Blake is starting to stretch out just the tiniest bit.
Maybe he is trying to ride a little bit. Knowing Chad Frankenfield, that's not on his agenda. He wants to go back up here and take this race lead, and as soon as these two guys in the front go side by side, he'll be right back up to him and trying to scrap for the lead. Reynolds just tandem drafted Ethan Burrell down the front straightaway right there. I mean, they just absolutely were connected the whole way down the front straightaway, and Reynolds didn't peek out or anything. He got inside that bubble of air behind the next-gen car and was able to get to Burrell and push him down the straightaway. Now Chad got a little bit loose coming off of turn 2. Reynolds is back to the back bumper of Burrell, just shoving him along.
Yeah, this is incredible bump drafting here. This is giving me flashbacks to like the tandem era back in like 2011.
What's more impressive, these two guys are not teammates. Like they are two totally different teams. Reynolds is Channel 199 and Burrell is Pro Edge Racing. Not teammates, but they're working together really well right here. And obviously Ethan Burrell dropping it off into turn 1, able to run this lead. And Ethan's a guy that we expect, I think, to go up here and win some races and contend for his first Elite Cup Series championship, but he's just hasn't shown that muscle this season to this point. Obviously only 3 races in, but I guess I was expecting Burrell to have maybe flexed. Last year he won the Daytona 500, our first race of the year. He led every lap at Dover. Last season there was a point where he and Ethan Stanley had like 7 of 8 wins in the season collectively, and he didn't make the final race. He wasn't in that championship hunt last season and at the end of the year. And to start this year, he's had some good runs, but they haven't been great runs. And this race is certainly a breath of fresh air for you Ethan Burrell fans at home, because this is the kind of dominance, the leading that I'm expecting from an Ethan Burrell. He's very quick, and I'm expecting this guy to go out and race for a championship.
Yeah, it was only a matter of time. Like, you're not going to keep a driver of Ethan Burrell's caliber down too long. Like, bad races are just a bad stretch. He's going to turn it around, and yeah, this is exactly the performance we expect from him.
Blake Reynolds has been content to sit in second behind Ethan Burrell. Chad Frankenfield sitting third. And Dave, I'm curious if you can pull up the gap between Chad and Hibbs just to see if that's widening or narrowing. It's certainly widening, but less than it was. And really, I think they're kind of maintaining back there from fourth on back. I think they're just kind of holding serve. Battle in that back group, it's between Ryan Gable and Justin Wadsworth. Gable pulled all the way to the apron to try and make sure that he and Wadsworth weren't side drafting each other, and Gable is going to take over that 9th spot and move Justin Wadsworth back to 10th. Just behind them, Jordan Owens and William White battling I believe that is for 11th spot. Nick Massey and Trey Holmes looking on. You know, James, you haven't been here, but Trey has moved to a new team. So too has Nick Massey. So too, I believe, is Jordan Owens. All those guys are on different teams this year, and this is really the first run for any of them other than Owens. Owens has finished in the top 10 in just about every race so far this season, and he finished in the top 10 about every race last season. Very consistent driver is Jordan Owens. Trey Holmes and Nick Massey have not seen the results that that go into a new team would have maybe brought, at least by your expectations, and so it's good to see both of those guys running well. Trey Holmes for Pro Edge Racing, Nick Massey for South Shore Racing.
Yeah, it's always stressful when you move to a new team. You know, you wanna impress your new teammates, your new team owner, and when you're not able to put up results that you want in the first couple races, it always kind of messes with your morale. But this is a much more solid result for them where they're running right now. So, you know, you just gotta baby steps and build back up to a point to where you're putting up the finishes for your new team that you want, that you know you can bring.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Nick Massey's had some connection issues. He got wadded up in a wreck, not of his own making, in the Daytona 500, but you know, and then a road course, I think, not Massey's strong suit last week. So Nick out here running 12th. He's got a good bit of pace, but this next gen car's not been kind to Nick Massey. I think he's struggled with it a little bit since the first year that we've had it. And it's a fast driver, but for, you know, on a new team, looking to currently, I think, the highest running South Shore Racing driver. So a good run for Nick Massey for sure at this point. And he had just both bypassed William White. William's a guy, you know, I mentioned him earlier, but so did Corey Abbott, having a good run. Currently trying to hold off Trey Holmes, but just behind Trey Holmes is Ethan Stanley, who is on the recovery drive in that 91 car. Stanley is up to 15th. Making ground, and I think he's still climbing. I do not think that the damage on this car is severe enough to keep him out of this top group.
Yeah, and to go back to what we were talking about earlier with Nick Massey, it's even more stressful for him, you know, being a new South Shore driver. You know, I've driven for South Shore before, and the guy who owns it, he's a really big taskmaster. So
for sure.
The better you can run to get him off of your back, the better, because otherwise, oh, good gracious.
Now, James ran, James and I had 2 very good years of South Shore together, and you won a race more than you won more races than I did on South Shore. So I can't even say anything. And so hoping Massey can pull one off here as well. But the good teamwork over there. We try to be fair with everybody and enjoy the race, have fun doing it. I think Massey and Bracey and everybody, Jeff Green and those guys are out there doing exactly that. So that's the hope, as Trey Holmes does clear around William White. Justin Wadsworth's fallen back here a little bit. Last year's champion, he's fallen back into the clutches of Nick Massey. Here comes Nick hunting for that. I think that's the 11th spot right there. So Wadsy might have hit the wall one time too many. I've seen him bounce off it a couple of times. That St. Jude's number 6 seems to be starting to go to the tight side, and he's not able to get down the straightaways as well as some of these other cars. I also saw Jeff Green hit pit road. So I'm not sure if Jeff's maybe short pitting, trying to get a jump start on the stage. He was running at about 20th spot. So even despite those incidents, he had picked up the pace and was running pretty well. And we keep bouncing off the South Shore guys. He's going to go a lap down here, but he is going to be running amongst the leaders once he gets off pit road. Like, they're flashing by right now. So he'll be kind of in that top 10-ish group right there. Yeah, there goes the race leaders, Burrell, Reynolds, Frankenfield. I mean, Jeff's going to be a part of this lead lap battle with the fresh tires.
Yeah, and that might be to some benefit of those guys, or well, they're all gonna,
Yeah.
or maybe not.
No, Weeks is going to get behind Jeff. I think you're absolutely right. He wants the car with the fresh tires to be out in front here.
Yeah, fuel save.
You can do a little bit of fuel save on the straightaways, but then yeah, that draft is going to pull you along. So if you're Matthew Weeks, yeah, go ahead, Jeff, get in front of me, use them fresh tires and get going.
And
RC's
you
it's
never
gonna
know,
work.
because Jeff is going to be pushing more naturally because of the fresher tires. You might be able to use him to catch right back up to the top 3.
I'm going to be real interested to see if this works out. Jeff's got a little more corner speed than Weeks, so I think he'll probably pull away right here. But that straightaway was definitely aided. They made up time on that straightaway there. Did Weeks and RC, but now yeah, Weeks got tight coming off of 2, and RC's going to go around him here.
Well, the big brain strat worked for a minute.
It worked for one entire straightaway. I thought it might work better, but Jeff drove away from him. The fresh tires are really strong right now, and we're at that 10 to go mark in the stage. Ethan sideways off turn 4, almost ended up in the pit attenuator. Blake Reynolds just has stuck to the back bumper of that 37 car. Ethan driving it off turn 2, 10 laps to go in the stage. Ethan Stanley on pit road. So there is some very important strategy here. Stanley was not going to make it into the stage points, and he goes down pit road to try and probably short pit and get some track position here. That's probably a really good call.
I'm curious to see how the decision to pit early for him and Jeff Green will work here in the later parts of the race, because they're going to get a big advantage from obviously short pitting and getting a bit of an overcut or an undercut. So
they'll definitely undercut, but my question will be, Stanley's going to make up a lot of that ground that he lost, but at what point is that no longer a benefit for him, right? Like when will his car fall off? That's the big question. And if he can manage the tires, which has been one of his best strong suits since the start of last season, he was able to manage the tires a lot better. Before that, he was really struggling with managing the tires in this next gen car. So, Stanley's really good about that. If he can maybe turn in some very quick lap times, make up a lot of time, he could end up right back in this battle for the lead. Jeff Green's entering the battle for the lead. He's up here. He's caught him. And if I'm these two leaders, I'm probably letting Jeff get on by. So don't want him side drafting you down the straightaway. Reynolds definitely let out of it. So did Burrell. I think they might have planned that. Run that straightaway about 3/4 throttle. Let Jeff go on by.
Yep, and just get the toe and try to. Well, they're still not going to be able to fuel save anyways. So once again, that point is moot.
Here comes Chad Frankenfield. Reynolds throws the block down the back straightaway. Chad's going to fire off for the 3 and make a little bit of contact with Reynolds. Oh my, Ethan Burrell now with a big advantage, 1 second plus.
Lord have mercy.
Chad did not very much like being blocked down the back straightaway right there, and sent a little message to the rookie driver in this Elite Cup series, even if Blake Reynolds maybe has more experience than a lot of these guys. But that started on the front straightaway. Reynolds kind of didn't have a good 1 and 2 because of checking up on the front straightaway, and he blocked Chad down the back, and then kind of tried to drive to the bottom there in turn 3. Chad didn't like it much and gave him a bump.
Yeah, I'm be curious to see if Blake tries that again later in the race. Chad giving him a heads up on his feelings about it.
Gerald Campbell on pit road, but yeah, I'm with you. I think Chad will probably He'll throw it in again. That's for sure. He'll definitely dive it off into the corner again. The question will be whether or not Blake is able to chop that off without wrecking himself. But I think Chad knows he'll run that bottom lane even if you're there. So that could have been a wreck. Ultimately, it wasn't.
He definitely showed that there's no Frankenfelds given on that one.
Ethan Burrell now lead has already been cut in half. Gerald Campbell's going to come off pit road right in this group as well. And that's just kind of the gap that's had over the middle part of the field where Jeff and Gerald were running. It's kind of exactly where they're coming off pit road. RC did wind up catching Chad Frankenfield, but has not been able to go around him for third after all those shenanigans on the back straightaway. So it is still Burrell, Reynolds, then the lapped car of Gerald Campbell, then it's Chad Frankenfield, RC Anderson, and Matthew Weeks, the top 5 as we approach the stage end, just 5 laps to go. William White has hit pit road, and he's off behind these guys, so I think White might have had an issue before that. Ryan Schuld on pit road as well. It's like Weeks is going to go after RC Anderson down the back straightaway. As we watch White get off, here comes Weeks. There he goes. Weeks around Anderson. So the tire saving on that 11 car seemed to pay off to this point. James, I'll tell you what, anybody who's short pitted here still needs to come down pit road one more time. My initial thought with that is, can any of these guys, as Josh Adams and Leighton Norgard had hit pit road, can any of these guys make it to the end with one more stop? That's what I'd be trying to do if I was still out here right now.
Yeah, and another thing I'm curious about, and this is what I was trying to allude to earlier, the tire offset and how that is going to work out, because you always have to pay the piper when it comes to the undercut, and it's like, yeah, you're going to be faster, quicker, and you're going to gain a lot of ground, but you're going to lose that ground just as quickly, if not quicker, than you gained it. And it's going to be an even sharper decline because they're going to be at fresher tires longer than you at your older tires, going slower now sooner than they are. Right. So that's why I always try to stretch it as far as I can, not just from a fuel mileage standpoint, but from a tire offset advantage as well, because it's mind-blowing how big of an advantage a tire offset is.
No, you're right. And I found that I've lost races by going too long, as here comes Blake Reynolds to the inside of Ethan Burrell. Blake trying to sweep the stages here. Weeks is side by side with Chad behind, but Reynolds goes flying by Chad, coming to 2 to go in the stage, or flying by Ethan, coming to 2 to go in the stage. Weeks goes around Chad Frankenfield for the 3rd spot. It's all Blake Reynolds up front. Looks like Ethan's tires might have fallen off just a little bit too much.
Just a little. Like they threw themselves off a cliff. Like he had a big advantage from Blake and Chad getting a little handsy with each other, and then all of a sudden Blake just blows right by.
Yeah, big advantage there. And now Leighton Norgard stepping into the mix. 2 to go. I think Burrell's hoping for the end of this stage very quickly so he can pick up those points and hit pit road. If I'm in this group, you think about pitting soon. I think in order for these guys to make it to the end, they need to pit around lap 120. So my assumption is they can't make it on one more stop. They'll probably all have to make 2 more stops. 1 to go in the stage this time by. Blake Reynolds will get that lap here as he lets Leighton Norgard go on by. Reynolds, Burrell, Weeks, Anderson, Frankenfield, the top 5. The battle was between Anderson and Frankenfield, and that's still raging on for that 4th spot. White flag in the stage. Anderson clears Frankenfield right as I say that. And then it's Scott Crump, Tyler Fody, Ryan Gavin Hibbs and Jordan Owens to round out the top 10 to pick up stage points. Trey Holmes and Nick Massey are hot on the heels of Owens, but it's Owens hunting after Hibbs as the battle for the 9th place stage points as we come down to that end and give it to Jordan Owens. Gavin Hibbs has fallen all the way to 10th. I don't think Trey Holmes or Nick Massey is going to be able to take advantage of Hibbs. Hibbs will get a stage point. But as we rocket off of turn 4, it will be Blake Reynolds to win stage 2 and sweep the stage. Oh, Jordan Owens is heading for pit road. He sacks the stage points, does Jordan Owens. So does Nick Massey. Massey wasn't going to get stage points, I guess, but Owens sacked 2 stage points right there.
Interesting. The bold strategy there, Cotton.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think I would have stayed out one more lap, but maybe Jordan felt like he couldn't. Unless we gave out points at the wrong lap, but I'm pretty sure it was that lap. So Trey Holmes gets a stage point. I'm sure Trey will say thank you. Blake Reynolds wins stage 2. Burrell 2nd, Weeks 3rd, Anderson 4th, Frankenfield 5th. Crump, Fody, Gable, Hibbs, and Holmes make up your top 10 at stage 2. And we will now have 60 laps to go in this race. Probably one more pit stop. And now, I'm thinking you got some guys out here on older tires. You got some guys on new tires. Here comes a bunch of those guys on old tires. Frankenfield, Fody, Gable, all heading down pit road. I think you divide this in half, don't you, James? You pit at lap 30 here and try and run 2 30-lap stints on fresher tires.
Absolutely. That is, if I was out on this track right now, that's exactly what I would be doing as the best of both worlds. Although, if you're a little farther in the pack, you could consider trying to mess around and see if you can build a little bit of a tire offset and see if that might be some sort of an advantage. I don't think tire wear is that bad to where even 1 or 2 extra laps would pay huge dividends. Not like if we were at Darlington or Old Atlanta, for example. But it...
That'll change some things. Burrell and Ederson had just hit pit road, and the yellow flag is out. I don't see what it was currently. I'm looking. Those two got on pit road normally, I thought. Oh, no, RC Anderson. RC Anderson spins it entering pit road, and that brings out the caution flag. Wow. And that means anybody who just pitted is in a huge advantage over Blake Reynolds and Matthew Weeks.
Wow.
So Frankenfield, Fody, Gable, Stanley, Green. They will all get to stay out here. Nick Massey, Jordan Owens are going to stay out ahead of these guys. Blake Reynolds is going to have to fight through a lot of traffic.
And it's really easy to do what RC did. Because you're carrying so much speed and you're just absolutely trying to slam on the brakes and slow down as quickly as possible. And if you're not careful and you don't have your brake bias set high enough, exactly what happens. Yep. That's why I always try to take a glance at my brake bias and put it forward as much as I can when I'm getting ready to pit to give me some ability to keep that from happening. If you lock up the brakes with it up in the front, you just slide forward 10 football fields instead of having something disastrous like that happen.
Oh yeah. And I think worth noting that in this next gen car, it's a brake cylinder and you have some different brake packages that you can kind of put into this car. And RC may be, you are braking into these corners. These guys are, I assume they're adding a little bit of brake. So RC may have altered the brakes, pushed them to the rear a little bit, and that locked up the rear tires entering pit road right there. And unfortunate break for a guy that was definitely in the top 5 right here. He picks up a tally, and that's definitely not what he wanted because he's going to have to follow these guys to pit road, and he's going to be Actually, he might be okay, but he's going to be in front of all these guys coming to pit road. But he's going to be behind all the guys that already pitted. And that's who's going to be the big benefactor here. And we'll re-rack this thing once we finish these pit stops and go on our commercial break. I'm trying to see if any of the guys who just came down pit road didn't come down again. But I don't believe so. I think everybody who pitted early on that green flag run stayed out, except for Ethan Stanley and Jeff Green. I think both of those guys have hit pit road once again to pick up fresh tires.
And that's a good idea from them. Don't look at gift horse in the mouth.
We'll get back to whatever that statement was when we get back from break. Dave, can you send us to commercial breaking?
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to www.raceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered.
Welcome back to the Decor Depot Brickyard 400 from Indianapolis. Gerald Campbell is your new race leader with Josh Adams running second. Then it's Chad Frankenfield and Tyler Fode in row 2. Blake Reynolds will restart from 9th after winning that stage. Pace car is off and 2 new race leaders will bring us down to the green. We'll see if these guys can hold this track position with older tires. Campbell gets him in the restart zone and goes. It's Jordan Owens who backs up that outside line. And Frankenfield and Burrell go to the top. It's Gable, I think, actually, that Frankenfield almost got into the fence there. And Tyler Fode's hunting the race lead on the top. He's gone to second. Yeah, Adams washes up. Hossack in the wall behind. Adams now bump drafting with Fode. It's Frankenfield going after Josh Adams, and Chad will now be bump drafting with Tyler Fode. Gerald Campbell out in front. And then it's Fody clearing down to the bottom in front of Adams with Frankenfield side by side with him. And then it's Nick Massey and Ryan Gable. And Gable will give the spot to Massey going down into turn number 4. And off of 4, Stillwell, Gerald Campbell, Tyler Fody up to second. And then it's Frankenfield and Adams side by side for third. Big push from Nick Massey to Chad Frankenfield. And it'll clear Chad Frankenfield into that third spot. No, it won't. Adams threw it in there deep. Now they're almost 3 wide. It's going to bottle things up in front of Gable, Burrell, Jordan Owens, R.C. Anderson, and Blake Reynolds all trying to pick their way through the traffic here. Doesn't look like fresh tires is too big of an advantage. You know, we saw that earlier with Chris Wright stayed out. It's an advantage. A couple of laps is helpful, but it's not going to change your car, right? It's not, like you said, contact between Anderson and Weeks. Anderson sideways. He's going to save it.
Wow.
That guy probably drives race cars for a living.
They're like 4 wide.
4 wide on the front straightaway. That bottled up this backpack so much. Reynolds fell back. Weeks fell back because of that. Scott Crump as well. It's opened the door here as Tyler Fody takes the lead from Gerald Campbell in turn 2 for a completely new race winner. The guys who've dominated this race are back in that pack. Ethan Stanley is the first one clear of it. He's in 9th, but he's still like a 2.5 seconds behind Jordan Owens. It's not going to matter if they keep battling like this for the lead. Fody almost ran into Gerald, and now they're 3 wide for the lead coming off of turn 3.
Oh, man.
3 guys that just are not going to give an inch. Gerald's the car that gets shot out to the outside. Fody and Chad have already run into each other in this race. Give the lead to Chad, making the move 3 wide on the bottom. Tyler Fody unable to gain control of this race. He's going to dive it down into turn 1, try and go after Chad Frankenfield. And Chad able to block that off. Ryan Gable sideways on the exit of turn number 1. Gable able to save it, gather it up, continue forward. Ethan Burrell's up to 5th right behind him. And they're in line behind Josh Adams there in 3rd. Adams in that Shift Esports car has had some really rough luck to start this season, but up here in 3rd, he's holding his own. And you've got Gable, Burrell, Owens, and Nick Massey, then Campbell, Stanley, Weeks, and Reynolds in that top 11. Worth noting that that group that fell back, led by Matthew Weeks and Reynolds, they have climbed right back into the hunt of this one because they got that clean air. They were able to run laps way quicker than those guys in front of them, battling and dicing it up for the race lead, and ultimately they're going to be right in the back in the thick of this thing. Stanley just blew around Gerald Campbell like he was standing still. Jordan Owens is going to jump down to the inside in front of Ethan Stanley, try to go around Nick Massey. That's going to pay off for Owens. Massey's going to back out and let Stanley have that spot as well. So it's Chad Frankenfield up front, then Tyler Fody. A group of 5 has a small breakaway advantage over Jordan Owens, Ethan Stanley, and Massey. But basically this pack is back single file, all back together after that big near incident in turn 4 that almost took out R.C. Anderson, who's fallen to 16th, but is still running. I think these guys still have to worry about fuel. I mean, we think that fuel window is about 30 to 40 laps in there. Owens trying to block off Ethan Stanley, running 6th. With the fuel window in that 30 to 40 lap mark, you are going to have to pit again. So I think you need to run as strong laps as you can muster right here and pit somewhere in the 125 to 130 range. And figure out, how you're going to deploy a winning strategy out of that formula. Reynolds now gets around Jordan Owens, but he ends up trapped in behind Nick Massey and Ethan Stanley.
Yeah, I think I think if I'm like not up in the first few positions, I'm gonna start fuel saving as much as I can, because, well, I don't know. We're still gonna have one. It's difficult. You definitely. Ooh, there's a. I wouldn't call that a hip check.
Yeah, it might have been. Chad Frankenfield and Tyler Fode have certainly run into each other already in this race, and Fode's going to take the lead over. Ryan Gable, Fode's teammate, running third right there, and I want to throw it back to something I alluded to early in the race. The team that Fode and Gable run on, Lake Norman Motorsports, Motorsports has won the last 6 races in this series. And now Tyler Fode is out in front once again with control of the race, with the potential to go ahead and make that 7 consecutive wins. A really impressive run by this team, but I mean, he's going to get the best shot of every other team out there, and that includes Chad Frankenfield behind for Little Eagle. That includes Ethan Burrell for Pro Edge, and especially, I think, Blake Reynolds in that Channel 199 Sim team. So this thing is not over by any means, but Tyler Fode in control of this race. 0.4 of a second lead on Chad Frankenfield. That's right where he wants to be. Now, to your point, James, about the fuel, I definitely am going to take it easy and try and save my stuff a little bit, but in order to put this together, I don't think what we've seen is that having a lap or 2 extra tires is in any way beneficial. I think track position is more beneficial. So I think I want to come down early, but I don't want to be the first car down pit road. Because then you get potentially trapped out. If everybody, waits, I want to be like in the middle, I think, in order to make this happen. Like, let my competitors come down. I'll come down the lap after them, so they don't gain anything on me. But I think the undercut will be pretty powerful in a run like this, given that we're only going to run 25 or 30 laps before that pit stop.
Yeah, the thing I'd be looking at too is trying to save as much fuel as I can to try to make the final stop as quick as I can. But then again, thinking about it, I don't know if that's really something you're going to have to worry about, because you're going to be taking 4 tires anyways, and it's not like I feel like you can fuel the car up pretty quickly, so I'm not entirely sure if fuel is still going to be going after the tires are already put on the car.
My assumption is that if you want to make a 2-tire call, you want to have more fuel already in the car. That's how I would assume it. So I think 2 tires is a very viable strategy here, given that we're only going to run the 25 or 30 laps before you pit anyway. So 2 tires is a very reasonable call. I think some guys are going to make it. And if you want to do that, you do need to save fuel, because you need to make sure that you're not waiting on your fuel to where it would have been just as beneficial just to take 4 tires. So that's my assumption, is if you want that 2-tire call, then you need to save your fuel. You need to make sure you pit where the time gain is substantial from that 2-tire stop. And
yeah, that would
3 or 4 seconds on it, right? I mean, theoretically.
Yeah, that would be a really big brain strat if you can pull that off. And there's going to be a few guys that are going to be considering that.
Yeah, I mean, guys that I would think consider it. You've got Chris Wright back in 13th, Josh Adams in 9th. Trey Holmes in 15th. Trey's pretty good about saving his stuff. Those are guys that I think could certainly make a call here. And it might not work out for him, I think, especially if this race goes green, which it's certainly not guaranteed to do. We got a caution with people just coming to pit road. Last time, we've got 3 wide down the back straightaway right now, and we're about to have a battle for the lead between 2 guys who've already made contact several times tonight. So the caution is certainly possible at any time, and there it is. It's amazing what happens. I'm pretty sure that happened out of that 3 wide group entering turn 3. That's where I would place my wager on the caution coming out at. Oh, they made it. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Oh, who was that? A Jess story? It was Jess. Head on into the outside wall in turn 3. It's going to be contact with Jeff here, or contact with Gavin. Both Jeff and Gavin have a tally in this race already. So I think we should probably go forward, Dave. It was in turn 3 here. I don't know. That might be on Jeff. That might be Jeff's second tally. See what race control Shane Mitchell calls there, but it looked like, Jess was coming down. I don't know. There's not a whole lot of spots Jeff can go, but then again, you can also let off and not run into the guy in front of you there. But
yeah, but it's difficult. Like, you're already mid corner. There's not a whole lot you can do. You don't have a whole lot of reaction time, and like he's already below basically
the white line,
below, yeah. So honestly, if I was race control, I'd mark this as a racing incident.
Good point. We'll see if that's what Shay agrees on. Dave, can we jump to pit road exit and see who wins this race off pit road, please? They are hitting pit road right now. Everybody in the field has come down pit road. So the question is, who takes 2 tires on this pit stop? Some guys are already off way at the back. I'm seeing 4, and they need, I think, to save a little bit of fuel to make it to the end. So 4 tires and a tank slammed full might be the move. Indeed it is. Tyler Fody first off pit road, then it's Burrell, Frankenfield, and Gavel. So Dave, did you ever find the Decor Depot ad read?
I did, sir.
Do you want to read that one off for us here?
Sure, it's one sentence, it's 2 sentences, so it's pretty quick. Decor Depot, purveyors of fine vintage goods on Etsy since 2019, based on the foot. So it probably should be based in the foothills of the Pocono Mountains, but that's Chad's typing. Based in the foothills of the Pocono Mountains. Now, I could be wrong. It could be a place that's based on the foothills, and somehow they like be based on mountains, I guess.
There you go. But the Decor Depot Brickyard 400, and we get to say that a lot because Zach's not here tonight, and we have to just make sure that we point that out every time. That our buddy Zach Evans, who would rather spend time with his family than join us to talk about pixel cars, it had struggles with the Decor Depot sponsorship. So but thankfully Zach picked a good week.
Did you see the race control message? Shay sent us a little bit of emotion.
He put racing incident with an exclamation point, which, I think that's what you said, James, right? Was race an incident? I think I agree with that. Typically, if I look at an incident, I don't know, 1 time, 2 times, and I don't immediately go, it's that guy. Then I'm going to put a racing incident deal on it. And I think you could probably look at that one and go, Jeff probably could have done something different. Jess probably could have done something a little bit different. The other guys could have done something a little bit different. But while we have him, let's actually bring Jess' story up while we're still pacing. Hey, Jess, it's David in the booth. You got me, buddy?
Yeah, I got you.
Take us through that incident there, man. Looked like a little bit of a coming together there in turn 3 wide. Felt like when I saw that starting to occur that you were kind of in a bad spot.
I mean, yeah, you pretty much hit it right there. I mean, I guess we got lappers racing for almost nothing, taking it 3 wide down the straightaway and just, putting people in bad positions. And I guess Jeff tried to take advantage of it, and we just kind of came together, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous racing if you ask me, but, I've been trying to do that throughout most of the race too. You know, you got to match that kind of energy, but it kind of sucks. We were having a good run going somewhat. I mean, I think we barely got in as an open driver, and it looked like we were going to have a reasonable result. And you know what, we're on the hook.
Gotcha, man. Well, hopefully we see you next week, and we appreciate you talking to us. We're about to go back green, so any quick shout outs for us here before we send you off?
Yeah, just thank you to you guys for putting on the broadcast. You know, it's always nice going back and watching these and seeing how good you guys do. Thanks, of course, to all of our officials and admins in Elite Racing League for putting this on, all of our partners and whatnot. Definitely a big shout out to my teammate Carlos and, of course, everybody at RK Motorsports. And also a big shout out to our partners, 3Y TV, and also my new partner that I just signed on with for this season with W Energy. So shout out to them too. So, but kind of wish we had a good run, but it is what it is. We'll go on to the next one.
Gotcha. Well, thanks, Jess, and have a good one, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Back to green and back to yellow. Goes this Den Decor Depot Brickyard 400. We had been running really, really green, nice and clean there for a little bit. Unfortunately, this restart has broken that. Looks like it's going to be around Jeff Green. So Jeff got into Ty a little bit beforehand and then ultimately finished him off. And Jeff's been around a lot of the incidents tonight. Yep. Ty backed up the corner a little bit, but maybe the contact from Jeff is what sent him up the hill and started that whole mess. So, Shay's had some tough ones. Oh, Ryan Schuld also got into Ty at the end of that incident. Let's see what happened to Ryan. Ryan gets on the binders. Oh, and just nowhere to go. Looks like Goody also got a piece of that. Ty was on the brakes, just nothing he could do. If maybe we get an on-board shot with Ty here, I would maybe even back it up a little bit from the beginning just to see.
Well, I will tell you that in driver chat, about 10 or 15 laps earlier, there was an issue with Ty and Jeff.
Uh-huh.
And race control came over and asked if they were okay. And Jeff said, not if I get back to him. And this is when he got back to him. So now, that might be coincidence or...
Well.
That's the backstory.
Well, we'll see what kind of call Shay makes there, because it would certainly be an interesting note. After the restart, Tyler Fody and Ryan Gable did get 1-2 away from Ethan Burrell and Chad Frankenfield. They will restart 3rd and 4th, respectively. Then it's Reynolds 5th, Massey 6th, Stanley 7th, Weeks 8th, Hibbs 9th, and Scott Crump running in 10th. Hey, why don't we get the story from the source itself, Dave? How about that?
Okay.
Hi, Macintosh. David in the booth. You got me, buddy?
Unfortunately, I do.
Well, we were just discussing what happened there. Why don't I actually line you back up from before this first incident and take us all the way back to the very first incident of the race, so that you can walk me through that one and get to this one.
All right, let me get a look at it here.
Because that first one, I believe they called on you. So
yeah, no, I mean for that one, it was just I had already been getting doored 3 or 4 times, and I just didn't want to have to give another position up to Jesse, and just got a little sideways. It was kind of weird. I don't know if it was because Seth was on my rear or not. I've apologized to Seth about 40 times because he was just there, and I feel terrible. I'm glad he was able to get all his damage fixed and back on lead lap. But yeah, no, that one was just me making a mistake.
Gotcha. And then this one obviously not going to go on you. What happened there?
Well, I don't know if you guys have got the driver chat on, but Jeff Green decided to door me down the front stretch. So when I doored him back, he wasn't done. So then he doored me again before that last yellow.
lost talent off my door and then proceeded to go up the racetrack. And the admin asked if we were fine. He said he was going to come back and get me, and clearly he did. So I got a little loose. I was definitely in range for me to save it if he cuts me a break, and he doesn't. So he got Josh at Atlanta. He got me here. I don't know. It's awkward because I like everybody else on South Shore. I don't know what this is, but I don't appreciate it. I mean, I'm having a good run, and now I got nothing. So.
Gotcha, man. Well, any shout outs for us here before we send you off tonight, since we just went 1 to green?
Everybody at Shift, Design Ping for being on the car. Everybody that helps me get where I'm at. We got a busy week this week at Shift. We got everything going on, and Elite Sports Car on Saturday. So just everybody at Shift.
Sounds good, buddy. Hate it for you. Obviously, we don't want the South Shore cars running into the South Shore drivers of other leagues. So hopefully we can rectify everything there. Oh,
I hope so.
All right. Well, I'll see you later, buddy, and good luck in your broadcast debut tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My assumption is that Jeff Green got the tally and then stopped the car to disconnect, and that extended the yellow.
He did.
So that's not what you want.
That's what we call in the business the Josh Williams.
Yeah. I believe that's I believe that may result in further action. I'm assuming he pulled off because he gets this tally. I don't think we've gotten the message from race control, though. I was trying to talk to Ty when that might have popped up. So I assume we're not going green right here. That will eliminate any fuel concerns, and yeah, there it is. Race control message has come through from Shea Mitchell. Jeff Green parked for the second tally. He did not appeal either tally, and I ultimately think that's probably a good call. Looked like he was kind of on the board for both of those, and maybe a third one there that he got. Yeah, that got called a racing deal. Now we'll be 1 to green. Tyler Fody and Ryan Gable, the teammates, were able to take control of this race on the last restart, and that team, again, 6 consecutive wins in this Belly Up Sports Cup Series, looking for 7. Ethan Burrell, Chad Frankenfield in row 2, looking to dethrone them. Then it's Blake Reynolds and Nick Massey in row 3. Ethan Stanley trying to recover from a crash there, closing stage 1 in row 4 alongside Matthew Weeks. Gavin Hibbs and Scott Crump there in row 5. R.C. Anderson, a big slide in that last run. He'll restart 11th here with 25 laps to go. Jordan Owens restarts in 12th. Josh Adams 13th. Trey Holmes will restart 14th. Chris Wright will restart in 15th alongside last season's champion Justin Wadsworth in 16th. This race still feels pretty wide open. I think 25 laps to go. That's under a fuel run. These guys are going to be going all out. I'll tell you what, James, my assumption is we are going to have a few more yellow flags.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say I probably agree with that assumption.
These guys are going to get very racy, very aggressive. There's still 20 some odd laps to go. There's a lot of time. But if you're outside, I just read the top 16. If you're outside the top 8, you probably need to go and get as much as you can on these restarts, and that attitude is going to snake all the way back through the field, and that's where we're going to get some of these wrecks. So, off turn 4, Tyler Fody leading us back to the green flag of the Decor Depot Brickyard 400. Alongside his teammate Ryan Gable, Ethan Burrell and Chad Frankenfield in tow. They get to the restart zone, and we are racing once again. Tyler Fody on the loud pedal gets the jump on Ryan Gable. Ethan Burrell's going to try and get underneath Gable. Gable trying to throw that block. He will not be able to do so. He will be able to clear Burrell before turn 1. Oh, and Reynolds slides up in front of Chad. able to take over that 4th spot. That's a big moment in this restart. That gives Blake Reynolds access to that 2nd row if we get an early caution. Everybody's on the same tires now. Before we had tire differences throughout this front pack. It is now everybody on the same strategy for fresh tires as of that last pit stop. Tyler Fody leading. Gable 2nd, Burrell 3rd, Spinner in the back. And it was William White.
Keep it green.
We didn't. I think the caution was for White, who was trying to get going, but I think Michael Hosack is also spun on the front straightaway here. So actually the incident's going to be Seth Rawls, Michael Hosack, Josh Personette on the front straightaway. White there spinning off turn 3. He was able to keep it straight enough to avoid the yellow. You can see the smoke up ahead of him. That was the actual cause of this yellow flag. Yeah, there was Gerald Campbell was still kind of rejoining, I think, after that William White incident. Personette got the fence. Hosack involved, Rawls involved. Ty had mentioned that Rawls had just gotten all his damage fixed. There's going to be some more damage on that 25 car now. How is Personette up the track so far? From there, when he hits the wall, it's just all over from there. So, Dave, my request would be, can we go on board with Ray Bracey and Ryan Schold through this? Maybe also Gilberto. All 3 of those guys had a really good view of this incident. On board with Bojo. Ray, and he gets on the binders. And he might have made a little bit of contact with Hosack, but it wasn't much.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit, but not as bad as the contact he made in the first wreck on the front stretch.
Oddly enough, right in the same spot for poor Ray Bracey. There's on board with Ryan Schold, who also makes the dodge and weave to get away from it. And after we look at Gilberto's, maybe we also take a look at Gerald Campbell's, but maybe we see if we can get Gerald from like turn 3 when he and William, I think, made contact. So here's Gilberto. He's going to see this thing and head to the bottom, and no one comes down and into him. And that's what Justin Fortner tried to do early in the race, and he wound up in the pit attenuator. Let's see if we can get a hold of Gerald. But I wanted to see if we could see what the contact between Gerald and William here.
I don't think this was caution.
This was not, but this ultimately resulted in the caution. And yeah, the contact from Gerald into William was fairly substantial, and William also hit the inside wall. But Gerald slowing up so much from that caution ultimately kind of caused this one, because he was there on the bottom, and those guys reacted, moved up the track, and then wound up in the fence. I'd almost give 2 tallies here, were I Shane Mitchell. Give one to Gerald for wrecking William, and then give one to Josh for wrecking the other guys. Even still, I mean, Josh is only up the track because he saw Gerald on the bottom right there. You probably can't. You probably can't say, well, it's Gerald's fault. Josh ran the top and hit the wall. So, thank you, Mark Rabilis, for the replay sponsorship. Long-standing sponsorship of that replay machine. And he was at the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago. He's at the Daytona 500. And Mark's a pretty good photographer. I would highly recommend him. Good follow on Twitter. Got some good pictures, good photos. We are 1 to green once again. Tyler Fody, Ryan Gable still on that front row. The only spot that really changed in this front group was that Blake Reynolds got around Chad Frankenfield, and oh my, we have one Zach Evans joining us in the booth.
Who?
Zach Evans, the usual guy.
Name rings a
We
bell.
have a booth debater.
Name rings a bell.
It does. See if he gets himself plugged in here.
I think I'm good to go now.
How's the family?
What was for dinner?
Family's good. Family's
Awesome.
good. Dinner was an entirely too large spicy chicken sandwich. And a delicious cookie skillet.
Awesome. That sounds great.
It was pretty great.
We ran about 100 fairly clean laps here, Zach.
Well, yeah, when I went to dinner, I was like, oh, this will be over by the time I get back. And it's not.
No, it's not. We've had about 3 cautions in the last 15 laps, so
Doing great.
I think it's gonna continue at this pace. if I were a betting man,
Cautions breed cautions.
they
That's
do
what
indeed.
I've been told.
Tyler Fode looking to win the 7th consecutive race for Lake Norman Motorsports, as is Ryan Gavel, his teammate running to the outside here in second. The guys looking to prevent that are Ethan Burrell, Blake Reynolds, Chad Frankenfield in the top 5 right here. Ethan Stanley's on a recovery drive. He wrecked coming to the line for stage 1. He's up to 6th. Certainly not out of it yet. Pace car is off. And Tyler Fode brings us into the restart zone and goes in the middle of the zone. And that was enough to give Blake Reynolds and Ryan Gavel a really good jump on Tyler Fode right here. And Gavel's going to have a really good opportunity to hold the lead, but he will tuck in behind his teammate at Lake Norman. What that does do is provide a really good opportunity for Blake Reynolds and then Ethan Stanley to charge up into this top 5. Oh, Gable got the walk over 2.
Oh, they're spinning.
Jordan Owens around, and Reynolds is going to be second on this restart. And that was it. Jordan Owens, a loop.
Pretty nicely done by Jordan Owens there to keep that to a 360. We'll see. Yep, just pushed up the hill, and then unfortunately Chris Wright couldn't check up in time to prevent getting into the back of Jordan Owens there. But otherwise, I mean, I think everybody did a pretty good job there, Jordan Owens included, getting that car back under control after going for the spin out turn 2.
We saw a fairly similar incident early in the race, right in that same area, that resulted in a multi-car pileup and cars flipping over off of that inside attenuator. And that Owens was able to get this thing looped around and the contact was extremely minimal was certainly applaudable by him and by this group. It's unfortunate for Jordan, who's put together a really strong start to the season, had a lot of good points finishes near the rear of the top 10. He's up in the top 10 in points right now, picking up where he left off last season. But, you know, he bailed on some stage points in the second stage, and I now wonder if he maybe should have stayed out and grabbed those stage points.
Yeah, you wonder if he's going to be kicking himself hardcore for that, especially having to be all the way at the back now.
And we'll obviously look and see where Jordan finishes this race, as he's one of kind of the top 10 guys in this points format right now. But my thought was 2 points would be very nice for a guy like Jordan Owens. He needs every point he can get. And he, coming off a turn 4 to pick up the stage, he bailed the pit road. So I don't know if that was a mistake or what. So, you know, I mentioned it. The tally does go to both Gerald and Josh Personette for the kind of dual incident before this one, per race control Shane Mitchell. I imagine Jordan is going to get the hammer for this latest incident, but we'll see what Shay calls.
Got the
So,
double
Zach,
whammy, the double tally.
It was worthy of a double tally, too. William got some pretty significant damage on the left front. It's still affecting him, I think, and he's certainly thrown together some messages in the driver chat about it.
Yeah, they debated the damage quite a bit as to whether or not 49 seconds was significant.
Well, I would ultimately ascribe Gerald also to causing the incident that happened that brought out the actual yellow. Like, I would ascribe that incident Gerald caught some percentage to the second incident on top of causing damage to Williams' car, and that wouldn't be enough for me to put a tally there on Gerald. But
oddly enough,
Zach, you missed that yellow, so
it is odd though that there's no time limit on what severe damage is. It's just subjective. Right. That seems like something that needs a time.
Especially with the next gen car, on how sometimes like 2 minutes of damage doesn't necessarily screw up your car that much, but like 12 seconds of damage might completely kill your race.
We're not at 1 to go yet, Dave. Can you pull up a replay for Zach? Maybe he can offer a fresh insight.
Of which incident do you want? The most recent one?
Gerald and Personette.
Okay.
Oh, these poor guys having to get their incident shown twice just so I can get caught up.
Oh, we could do it 10 times, really. We have the time.
Okay, well, the grass is not where... Okay, so that's how we ended up clipping the grass, I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So this does not bring out the yellow.
Okay, so but it puts William White into wall where I'm sure he gets wheel damage. Oh, maybe more than one. Oh, yeah, no, that's a lot of damage because he's got to go head on into the wall. Yeah, wheel damage is the least of his concerns now. Yep, good luck with that, William.
And so Gerald is now way offline for turn 4. He scoots up the track. Everybody's 3 wide with him, and Josh Personette is going to run a little too high. And coming off turn 4, Personette is going to slap the outside wall and collect those 2 cars that are just behind him, Hosack and Rawls. Right about there.
Yep.
And so I personally ascribe some percentage of that to Gerald's incident, forcing Personette to run high. However,
sure,
Personette's got to slow up for it, so he gets the tally. But because Gerald had some hand in Personette running high,
right,
plus damage to William White's car, tally 0-0. I don't know. That's my thought on it.
Sure.
Agreed.
Yay.
It's tough to not give the tally to the 18 when he bounces off the wall, but I would also... It's kind of like the old Sim Racing Stewards subreddit conversation. There's being at fault for an incident, and then there's, even though it's not your fault because you have done something to not be a part of the incident, and there is something to be said about a couple of those cars who were collected who... I understand they couldn't run the very bottom because Gerald was there hanging on for dear life, but at some point during that corner, it had to be visually apparent the 18 was not going to make the corner, and therefore it might behoove you to lift.
Yeah.
But that's not tally. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Fair enough. In our discussion, we got to have discussions for at least 3.5 minute pace laps.
Sure.
But we're done with those, thankfully. Tyler Fody. Well, until turn 1. Tyler Fody coming down to this green flag here with 25 laps to go in this race. Ryan Gable right up behind him. I'm sure these Lake Norman Chevys will go early in the zone, and they do. Big push from Ryan Gable, shoves Tyler Fody way out in front, clears Ryan Gable to second. Blake Reynolds will now have to fight for third, and he'll be battling Ethan Stanley and Ethan Burrell for that spot. Reynolds looking high, ultimately chooses to duck in line behind those Lake Norman Chevys, and Ethan Stanley's going to pick 4th up from Burrell right here.
Oh!
Is that Anderson down on the inside wall?
I couldn't tell if it was RC or which. I'm going at it from the perspective of not even knowing who's still in the race, but I do believe that is RC Anderson.
It's Anderson there, and Adams, I think, came down a little bit.
Yep, I believe you're right.
Boy, having that number sure would be helpful because RC could come check that damage and get Adams a tally, you'd think. Oh, caution flag is out. So he will now be able to do exactly that. Another incident, here it is.
Oh no, off the turn 4 again.
Yep, William White,
no.
Ryan Schuld.
No!
Oh, and is Bojo going to be in another one?
Oh no, and I don't think he's going to survive that one.
Who is that? Gerald? Is that Gerald in the front of
I
this?
think
Yeah.
Gerald gets into the wall in front of these guys, and then Scholl is just kind of caught in the
Oh.
meat of the sandwich. And Bojo, Goodman with the hard hit as well.
Personette got to a stop before taking out Bojo again. Bojo's been in about a bunch of these and just hasn't finished the car off. Man.
And I think he did this time.
Yeah, he might have this time. That's a good bit of damage. And William White involved again, and William had a really good run going before that contact with Gerald. Here's the incident for Goody. Slow in into William. Nowhere you can really go. Track's blocked at that point.
And you could tell he got on the brakes pretty quickly, but I believe he couldn't go any further left because another car had gotten to his inside, trying to take evasive action. May have been, I'm not sure who it was. It was one of the many white cars in the field, but yep, there's Ray Bracy getting involved as we go on board.
Yeah, the damage might not be too bad on the 7.
It didn't look as bad from the onboard as it did. Now, what happened to Gilberto here?
What did happen to Gilberto? I saw he was running 21st. I was like, oh, hey.
Okay, so I'm guessing he gets just enough of a.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
there it is.
Right rear.
Got
I was about to
some
say that.
pretty significant damage.
You can see the sparks. So at that point, the car probably wouldn't even drive. From that angle, I could see Dustin Dewar was indeed the car that kind of gotten alongside Goody before they got to the crash, and that was why Goody kind of couldn't really commit any further to the left to try and miss it. It would have just been running into his teammate at that point, and we'll kind of see that from this perspective. Yeah, at this point, you could tell Goody thinks right here to turn left, but he can see in his mirror his teammate is already filling that gap, and indeed, Dustin Dewar is able to get by unscathed.
Do good on do good crime right there. A lot of those cars involved in these last couple of wrecks do hit pit road for damage repair. RC was on pit road for a good minute and a half. So, that'll be a conversation for the stewards, for Chad, kind of for everybody involved in the rulemaking here at Elite. What is the damage of a severe damage tally?
Well, especially with this next-gen car, I mean, the damage could be... A meatball could just be 22 seconds of suspension repair, right? But it's a meatball, so it's not like something you can... Like, you have to come to pit road to serve it at that point, so the penalty is more than just the 22 seconds of repairs. It's the fact that you are forced to report to pit road. So that's a very minimal in terms of a damage clock penalty, but I think if it's a meatball, it has to be considered severe damage, right? So it's a tough thing to rule on putting a time measurement on it.
And the damage model on the next gen is strange as well, because like I've had moments where I've been significantly damaged, but a meatball wasn't actually given. But I still have like 7 minutes of optional repairs to do. I didn't have to get those repairs done, but I needed those repairs done.
Right. We saw it. I want to say it was a race that Zach and I covered last year. Matthew Weeks got some damage on pit road. Somebody rear-ended him. Couple of seconds of damage, but it hit his diffuser. Right. And it changed the handling of Weeks' car. And he went from a top 5 car all the way back to the 20s. And we were, what happened? What happened to Matthew Weeks? But after the race, he said, they hit my diffuser, and it messed up the way my car drove, even though it was only like 10 seconds of damage. So, fair points, certainly evidence that we've seen before. And as we re-rack to go once again here with 23 laps to go, we do hope we can get in a few green flag laps. Tyler Fode, the race leader, he will restart on the top in front of his teammate Ethan Stanley in 4th. Ryan Gable the third Lake Norman Chevrolet up in this top group. He'll restart on the bottom in front of Blake Reynolds. Chad Frankenfield, Ethan Burrell will restart in row 3. Gavin Hibbs, Nick Massey in row 4. Scott Crump, Justin Wadsworth in row 5. Pace car is off. Tyler Fody and Ryan Gable leading us down with 23 laps to go to complete our 11th caution in the Den Decor Depot Brickyard 400. Into the restart zone they go. They restart early. Fody with a big jump on his 2 teammates. You know, if I'm Tyler Fody, I don't want to be bringing Ethan Stanley up closer to this front group, because if there's one guy on your team who can beat you, it's Ethan Stanley.
Yeah, you're hoping that the damage that he still probably has might mess him up a little bit if you're Fody, but it doesn't look that way.
Nope, and here comes Stanley and Reynolds going flashing by Ryan Gable with that draft down the back straightaway. Gable side by side with Reynolds into turn 3. This is about the closest we've seen anybody race Reynolds, and Reynolds able to hold on. Burrell into Gable. Gable holds on to it, still holds on to it.
Oh, Gibbs hard into the wall.
Hibbs hits the wall hard. He will lose several spots. So too will Ryan Gable. Both of them tumble out of the top 10. But it is Tyler Fody leads Ethan Stanley and Blake Reynolds at the front of the field. Matthew Weeks and Burrell sneak through. Side by side behind them is Wadsworth Crump. It's all Tyler Fody up front, all Lake Norman once again. They're hunting 7 consecutive team wins. And right now, they've got the front 2 spots. Racing deal given out for our last yellow for that incident on the front straightaway. Fody's trying to break the draft here, but those 2 guys behind him I would say have been the fastest 2 cars here.
Yeah, he ain't gonna just pull away from them.
No, he will not. Let's see if Matthew Weeks and Ethan Burrell can conjure up some tandem work and try and catch this front 3. Those 2 Pro Edge Toyotas, I wouldn't count them out yet. You know, I think those guys are pretty quick. Matthew Weeks, the defending winner of this Brickyard 400, and if these front 3 get to racing at all, that'll bring those Toyotas right back into the mix.
I can't look at this top 3 right now and not think about, I mean, to a certain extent, some of the, comments from Tate Lytle after our last race at Zandvoort. You've got the 2 quote-unquote aliens running 2nd and 3rd, of course, the winningest driver in series history, leading the way as we get inside 20 to go here in the Brickyard 400.
Uh-oh.
And we have our 12th caution.
Oh,
that is Jesse Racibas and Ryan Gable around.
Oh, and Gable, got sideways there from contact with Burrell. Put him back in the hornet's nest here, and yeah, Jordan got into Gerald trying to avoid this as well, so it's going to send Gerald up into the wall. It's going to be some pretty heavy contact for the 00. I think Jesse just tried to side draft, got a little too close, and got kind of hooked together with Ryan.
Yeah, he tried to side draft and he banged the gavel.
Oh,
Take
dear.
sunglasses off.
Oh, dear.
Whee! Explosions in the background.
The wall goes. I think that was it too for the incident. That was all the damage that occurred was just those 2. Can we go on board with Jordan potentially here, Dave? Oh. I think the move to get around there was quite good for Jordan Owens. He managed to react in time, change lanes through another car, and get out of the way of a head-on collision. And Shea goes ahead and gives this tally to Jesse Racimus. I think we're all in agreement on that up here.
You know, the interesting thing that I noticed from that is I couldn't quite make out who the car was in front of Jesse Racimus there, but I almost wonder, not even so much as a side draft, but even it kind of looked like to me maybe the car in front of him was also drifting a little bit to the right.
It's Gavin Higgins.
Gavin Higgins, and obviously he doesn't get as close to a Leighton Norgard as Jesse did to Ryan Gable. But I almost wonder if he kind of caught in a tunnel vision situation where he was trying to make sure he was so, in that draft, right? See, you can see the gap between, you see the 13 closer to the 12. And I almost wonder if Jesse was maybe so locked in on following Gavin Higgins that he almost kind of didn't realize how close he was to Ryan.
Yeah. I think there's definitely some merit to that.
Yeah, you could kind of see. Yeah, I feel like he's just following the 13, trying to get his draft, and I mean, you could see from that perspective, the 13 is even closer to the 12 than it appears from the outside, and by that, then of course Jesse gets into Ryan just trying to follow that draft. Is what I feel like happened there. Which again, I mean, it's still obviously his fault for making the contact and spinning Ryan. But I feel like that feels like what probably happened there, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that's a good eye. That's good stuff. It's what we're missing from this whole first half, right, James?
You just needed my 4 eyes to add to the conversation. Yes.
Right. James complained about his eyesight early in the broadcast, so.
Oh, and it was very much apparent with my inability to read anything in front of me. I need to apologize to Leighton Norgard as well for my poor eyesight's inability to read and pronounce their name properly.
Yeah, Leighton's done the booth. He knows. I think he knows the difficulty. And so if you've never seen the name and you're looking at it on the Discord screen, I get it.
Like leaning into my computer screen, just squinting my eyes.
Who is this?
Like the one Winnie the Pooh meme.
Right. Yeah, you got your monocle out. You're trying to pull out the telescope to read some names here on Discord.
Binoculars.
Yeah. Tyler Fode, the race leader, will choose the outside lane for this upcoming restart. And, well, I don't know about you guys, but Tyler Fode and the guy behind him, Matthew Weeks, are not the best of friends. And so Fode choosing Weeks tells me that he's, I won't say significantly frightened of that 66 car, but he considers the 66 car his biggest competitor. How about that? And so, if when you're restarting near somebody, you're kind of going to give that lane an advantage because as the leader, you're going to get to go earlier. And presuming Weeks gets the jump, he ought to be able to stay to the outside of Ethan Stanley. At the very least, he'll be able to stay on the outside of Blake Reynolds. Typically you want to have a teammate in that line. Obviously, with Ethan Stanley restarting second, he can't do that.
But maybe this is a case where, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or my enemy is also your enemy. I guess what I'm trying to say is we saw how those top 3 broke away on the last restart, so I'm sure there's a certain part of Fode that hopes if Matthew Weeks can just get up here and pester Ethan Stanley and Blake Reynolds enough for him to escape. And maybe, just maybe this time we'll go green.
Wishful thinking, I know.
Who knows? Then that could be a race-winning decision for it. We'll see.
It sure could be. So, and it could get Matthew Weeks back up in here. He was able to maintain that 4th position.
Tally has been issued to the 37. Did we miss something with Ethan Burrell?
That might be a wrong number. It would have been Jesse, right? Should have been the 70, not 37.
Well,
unless Ethan got a tally for Wreck and Gable. I don't think he did. Pace car is off up here for the restart. So we'll readdress that later if anything comes of it.
Chad did
Matthew
have
Weeks
Shea
got-
go back and look at that, so I think that's what it's for.
Okay. Well, there you go. Burrell gets a tally for Spin and Gable. Matthew Weeks got a really good restart here. He's going to be right on the door of Ethan Stanley. Stanley's going to clear, but Weeks is going to be in that spot that I think Fody and Stanley wanted him to be in. It's on the outside of Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, he's going to have the momentum. Nope. I couldn't stay.
Weeks doesn't like
him.
that Weeks doesn't like that outside lane. It's kind of the anti-Chad Frankenfield, anti-Tyler Fody line. He likes to be the bottom, wants to be on the attack. Some of these guys are okay running that outside line for defense. Matthew Weeks just is not willing to do that. Now he's going to be on the inside line attacking. That's what he wants. As Blake Reynolds gets around Ethan Stanley. Oh, Stanley
right in the wall. And
Well,
that's got to allow Weeks to get by.
Stanley's does not have the momentum. Weeks is going to clear for second. So Fody has lost his team help. And it's Reynolds and Weeks just behind Tyler Fody for that race lead.
Well, it's a good thing that car's already damaged.
So now what can Blake Reynolds do to reel in Tyler Fody? I'm sure that draft will help, and he does have Matthew Weeks right behind him as well.
Weaving and bobbing you saw in the back. That was Chris Wright and Scott Crump weaving around and bobbing and trying to make the best of the draft situations. Crump is side by side back here in the pack. Stanley is back to the back bumper of Matthew Weeks for this third spot. That car's not heavily damaged from that wall slap. It looks like it's still going strong.
And Ethan Burrell is creeping into this conversation back there in 5th place as well. We might not be able to count him out just yet either.
He led a lot of laps in the middle part of this race, did Ethan Burrell. So I envision that if he actually does get this track position back, he will have something for him.
Oh,
unless he does
we
that.
say that.
Unless he does that.
Say that.
Can't do that, Ethan. Smacks the wall coming off of 2. Blake Reynolds had some tire smoke popping out of that car. These guys are driving it really hard right now, but everybody's chasing that 40 of Tyler Fody. Oh, Reynolds into the wall.
Yeah, I was about to say, you could tell by the way he was approaching turn 3, he had really sent it in there hard. It was going to have a hard time sticking. It did not.
Tyler Fody had texted me this morning and was talking to me about they've won 6 races in a row for his team. He's looking to make it 7, but he knows it's tough. This is going to be a tough race. I don't know that Fody was expecting to be the car in this scenario. I think he thought it would be the guy in 4th, Ethan Stanley, off the jump. But this is the second time this season that Tyler Fody has been in the spot of defending the race lead against that guy in 2nd, Blake Reynolds. He won at Kentucky, did Tyler Fody. He's in the same spot again here in Indianapolis.
Of course, Kentucky being that milestone 200th event in the history of the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Historic moment. Another historic moment here tonight. Crown Jewel event, Brickyard 400 on the line. 11 laps to go.
Fody working that snake draft. James and I were arguing about that one earlier in the race. I don't think either of us ended up liking the way that looks, but Tyler Fody trying to do anything to break the draft that Blake Reynolds is gaining on him right now.
It ain't pretty, but boy, is it effective. It's giving him just enough gap to keep Blake at bay, which is exactly what you need. He does not want that 66 to get anywhere near those quarter panels, inside or outside.
And the minute he does, that'll bring that 11, 91, and 37 right back into the battle for the lead. So if you're Blake Reynolds, and that's either of you guys are Blake Reynolds, and you're given chase here, do you wait? Are you patient to making this move, or are you going for it right now? I guess it doesn't matter. Blake Reynolds is going for it right now. If Fody's in the wall! Wow.
Well, I guess that answered your question, David.
He went in there pretty hard, and he forced Fody into a mistake. Because, yeah, Fody's he's going to get too high on corner exit right here and smack the wall.
Man.
And this is going to be a big shot here on the inside wall.
Yeah, that 40 car is going to be hurt pretty badly. Wow.
What a heartbreaker for Tyler Fody.
Yeah. Think you have the race control, and then sometimes that.
But I mean, how many times, both in the sim and in the real world, have we seen that kind of situation here at Indianapolis? It's just so hard to get these corners right every time for 160 or 200 laps.
And then especially it's hard to run that outside lane. And, James and I talked about that earlier in the race too, is we saw some guys completely unwilling to run that outside lane. And Fody is a guy who likes to defend up there. He likes to run that top, defend, pinch down, do everything that he was doing right there to Blake Reynolds. But he just got up a little bit too high. And at Indianapolis, it's just so unforgiving on that corner exit spot.
Yeah, that's the thing about corner exit here on all four, is that it's so deceptive. You're never truly sure if you're going to hit the corner right. Like, there's been, I don't know how many times where I've been on corner exit thinking I nailed it, and then looking like, that wall's getting pretty close, and then whack. So even when you think you have it nailed, just not in the way that you were anticipating. Unfortunately, Fody had it nailed, not in the way he wanted it to be.
Right. It's an uncharacteristic mistake, but it's also a product of the move Blake Reynolds put, which is what I was kind of wondering, right? Is, okay, if Blake stays patient, he won't bring the guys behind in, and he'll be able to kind of push he and Fody out to an insurmountable gap where he can then race for the win. The alternate thought there is pressure him, try to make the pass, but at the very least force him into a mistake. It just so happened the mistake coincided with the very first pressuring of the pass, and it's uncharacteristic of something from, like Zach said, the winningest driver in Elite Cup Series history.
Yeah, you sell him a dummy, and sometimes it works out for you in a way you can't anticipate. It's like in hockey when you're one-on-one with the goalie, you try to get him to bite first, and if you get him to bite first, you basically got him beat. And to all of our surprise, Blake got him to bite first.
It's a guy that's hard to rattle too, Tyler Fody. He's done this a long time. He's won races out of that position against that driver this season. It's part of that is, obviously the pressure of the move. Part of that is this track. And so, ultimately Fody's going to go back. He's going to have a pretty tough finish here, but that's something that I think we're going to see throughout this 2025A Belly Up Sports Cup Series season, is battles between the 66, the 40, the 91, the 11, 37, 56. All those guys are going to fight tooth and nail for these wins. We're going to see mistakes like this. We're going to see mistakes like we saw with Cutlip and Stanley early in the race. A lot of tight, close racing that's going to result in stuff like that. And that's surprising, obviously, on our end, but I think we're going to get a lot of moments like that throughout this season.
So let's set the stage a little bit here as we get ready for this restart. Blake Reynolds, obviously a newcomer to Elite, but one of the best, as we've established, former Coke Series championship contender, looking for that first Elite win. Matthew Weeks, not the start to the 2025A season that we would expect out of him. How much would he love to get that win, get the monkey off his back, and get this season pointed back in the right direction. Behind that, the Ethans, what could we possibly say about Ethan Stanley and Ethan Burrell that we haven't already said this season, especially considering Ethan Stanley, winner of 2 of the first 3 races this season. Oh, by the way, the defending elite IndyCar Indianapolis 500 winner, restarting 5th here, and a guy who has been going a long time without a win in this Cup Series. What better place to get it than on the Yard of Bricks?
That's right. One thing there to toss in is that Matthew Weeks is the defending winner of this Brickyard 400. So a lot of experience there in that top group, a lot of wins. This battle down to the end is going to be fantastic if the battle to stage 1 was anything similar. Blake Reynolds on the outside, he'll be leading Ethan Burrell. Matthew Weeks on the inside, leading Ethan Stanley. Down as the pace car pulls off, we'll head towards that Yard of Bricks to hit 6 laps to go in this Decor Depot Brickyard 400 for the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Reynolds heading towards that restart zone, and he fires off pretty early. He'll get a sizable advantage going towards turn 1, though not that sizable. Big run for Matthew Weeks. Reynolds has to cut it off.
Ooh. That was a good check moment.
Reynolds cuts Weeks off there. Stanley able to clear into second. Now it's all Matthew Weeks against Blake Reynolds. Can Weeks find a little of that short run pace that we always kind of wonder if Weeks has it in the tank? He's got a big run down the back straightaway. Can Matthew Weeks make a pass on Blake Reynolds?
And Weeks isn't going to like that double move there from Blake Reynolds down the backstretch, but who can you blame? It's 6 laps to go in the Brickyard 400. Every chance is going to be taken here.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do sometimes. Don't hate the play, hate the game.
I think Weeks now has to back up, try to get the run back to Blake Reynolds, take the draft from Stanley without, getting passed by Ethan Stanley. See if Weeks can get back to the back bumper of Reynolds, and he might have to make a pass on the entry to one of the corners as opposed to pulling out down the straightaway, given that Reynolds is obviously willing to throw those blocks on the straightaway. Burrell into the wall.
Burrell into the wall.
That backs the 37 car off of this front group. Now it's kind of a 3-car pack for the win. Chad Frankenfield got mired in the middle of the pack. Weeks looking to the inside of Reynolds. He's going to be able to dump air on the spoiler. Matthew Weeks looking to the inside. Give the lead to the 11 car.
Got it. Great move. Oh, but Blake's looking for the crossover.
He will.
Can't do it.
But Reynolds, this almost feels like an IndyCar race. Oh, Stanley into the back of Reynolds. Little bit of contact between the 91 and the 66. Ethan Stanley trying to take over.
Right now, Ethan Stanley is Matthew Weeks' best friend.
Matthew Weeks able to make that pass. He's got to go run and hide. 4 laps to go. Stanley still fighting Reynolds. Stanley drifts up the track. Almost gets the back bumper of Reynolds.
Are we 3? Oh, man.
Burrell to the inside, unable to get it done. Stanley holds off Burrell off turn 2, but they're all chasing Matthew Weeks down the back straightaway.
Now, do they settle down and try to get single file and track down Weeks, or are the Ethans just going to be battling hard for third here?
Well, I think Blake Reynolds is going to go hunt down Matthew Weeks. He's got 3.5 laps to do it. He's got that single car pace. Whenever he gets in that clean air, it seems like this 66 car just picks up.
Did you see Blake just lightly graze the wall? He didn't hit it, but he grazed it. There was a little bit of smoke off of that car. He's taken every inch there is.
Perfect laps here from Blake Reynolds. Got to get back to the back bumper of Matthew Weeks, and we've already seen Reynolds in a bunch of fights for the race lead that have ended in some contact. So we'll see if there's another one coming down the pipeline here. It's going to be a 2-car tango to the win. The battle between the Ethans has dragged them well off of this front 2.
And Reynolds is closing, but I don't know if he's closing it enough. It was 6/10 at the line last time by. He's really got to get it probably to 4/10 by the time they get to 2 to go to. Oh, somebody's in the wall back there. I believe it was Ethan Stanley.
It was Ethan Stanley. Yeah, let's keep an eye on this time between. Josh Adams just cleared Stanley for 4th. He's going to get it down to, I think, 410. It's under 410s.
Yeah, he picked up at least about a quarter of a second that time. He might have a chance to get there, but will he have enough time to make a move?
I think he definitely will. It's just a matter, we've seen Matthew Weeks be pretty unwilling to run that outside line and kind of commit to it. If Reynolds gets there, Weeks has almost got to force him high. He's got to make him take the run to the outside, because Matthew Weeks' best line is that bottom lane.
Oh, man. Right on the ragged edge for Blake Reynolds.
They're coming down. White flag out this time by Matthew Weeks, the race lead. He's got to hold off Blake Reynolds to do it.
It looks like they're super even in 1 and 2, but where Blake gains all of his time in 3 and 4. Like last time, both the 2/10s he gained was in 3 and 4.
And that's
he's wide. He made a little bit of contact.
A little bit of contact with the wall for Blake Reynolds. Matthew Weeks is going to have the back straightaway here. Reynolds is going to gain on him, but again, if I'm Weeks, I've got to protect that bottom. You can't let Reynolds get inside of you here.
Blake's not going to get there.
Not here, but he might in the short shoot. Matthew Weeks through turn 3. He's got to make one more perfect corner. Reynolds fires it in.
Oh, that's
not enough. Matthew Weeks off turn 4 for the Decor Depot Brickyard 400. It'll be driver 11 getting his second consecutive Brickyard 400 victory over Blake Reynolds. Ethan Burrell collects another podium, and it'll be Josh Adams and Ethan Stanley to round out the top 5. What a race. Blake Reynolds fired it in there. Maybe could have bumped Weeks. And I imagine when we get a hold of Reynolds here, he'll talk about it, but he's mentioned a number of times in the interviews we've already had with him, kind of a desire to not make enemies pretty immediately, and he's been in a position to wreck somebody out of the lead just about every one of these races, and hasn't done it yet, but yeah, four races, and I think Reynolds has finished second 3 times.
What a drive. What a race by Matthew Weeks.
Yeah, Weeks drove a really good race. I felt really good about it. He's able to keep that 11 car clean. He's won this race before, so that's hardly a surprise.
Look how close. Oh my goodness.
Reynolds got it in really far, entering turn 4 right there.
Yeah, you wonder if Weeks maybe tried to back up corner entry a little bit to try to maximize his speed off so that he could have some little bit of gap on the run down to the checker, but wow, that almost worked out poorly for him. Just a little bit more and Blake would have been there.
Yeah, it was so close for Matthew Weeks, but he will pick up that win, and that's his first, that does break the Lake Norman Motorsports stranglehold on race wins, 6 in a row being that mark in this Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. That is broken here with the Pro Edge Toyota heading to victory lane. And then you also have, Matthew Weeks is locked into the playoffs, which not a surprise. He's a 2-time champion of this series, certainly something we expected down the stretch, but a big moment, I think, given that his poor start could have resulted for sure in an uncharacteristic playoff miss if he hadn't gathered it together and been able to pull this race win off.
Yeah, 21st at Daytona, 27th at Kentucky, and was not with us for the event at Zandvoort. So big win to eliminate any doubt as far as those playoff considerations as we get further and further into this regular season.
So a quick rundown of the finishing order, and then we'll bring up Ethan Burrell. Weeks, obviously Reynolds, Burrell, Adams, and Stanley, the top 5. Trey Holmes with a really good run to finish 6th right there. Scott Crump was in the top 10 basically all day, as was his teammate Justin Wadsworth, who finishes 8th. Chris Wright with a nice recovery drive after staying out early on the old tires and leading a couple of laps. He finishes 9th. Chad Frankenfield winds up in 10th. Really just did not get going on that final restart and ended up falling back. R.C. Anderson, a good recovery drive after that near spin. He finishes 11th. Massey 12th. Gable with a really nice recovery after that caution. He finishes it in 13th with Vandermarl 14th. Fody able to get back to 15th, and then Norgard, Owens, and Racimus to round out the top 18. And then we'll just look at those remaining lead lap cars real quick as I bring up Ethan Burrell. And you can see guys like Gavin Hibbs ended up 19th. Michael Goodman 21st. Dewar 20th. Bracy, Personette, Campbell, Rawls, Scholden, Hosack to wind out our lead lap there. So let's talk to podium finisher Ethan Burrell. And Ethan, really strong race for you there and a good points day for sure, but ultimately you fall just a little bit short. You know, take me through your day, especially the time where you were out there leading coming to the close of stage 2.
Yeah, it was really good. It was an up and down day. I qualified better than I thought I would, honestly, starting second, and I felt like I was a little bit off of the winning guys for a good majority of the race on speed, but I started to kind of figure it out later when the track started cooling down a bit, and yeah, that run leading was fun out there with towing Blake around, and he was having a good time putting air on my spoiler and whatnot, but it was good, man. I was bummed that we had a bunch of wrecks at the end, and I was kind of losing spots, but ended up sneaking around and pulling a podium out of it. So I think P3. I don't think I could have really asked for anything better than that.
Leaving it up to you guys for question 2 there.
Okay, I'll go. Obviously, this is going to be tough for me. I missed about 3/4 of the race, but, you know, Ethan, obviously another strong finish for you this season. A little bit of a disappointment at Daytona, but, you know, now you're back in the contention for a win after a couple of top 10 finishes. How important has it been to, you know, get your first trip to the booth here in the Cup Series this season and kind of get some momentum going for this 37 team?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's always tough coming out of Daytona. I mean, if you don't have a really good day at Daytona, it kind of really puts you on the back foot. And you know, then we usually have a road course early in the season, so sometimes it could be a bit of a rocky start to the season. But I think we got like 6th at Kentucky and then 3rd tonight, so it is good to get some momentum, get back on track, and you know, I know the system, I think we went to like win and you're in now, but you know, still having a good spot in the points is super important. So yeah, I'll just keep chugging along, and this series is always getting faster and faster, and it gets harder to win. So got to take the good runs where we can get them.
Well, Ethan, any shout outs for us here before we send you off tonight?
Yeah, shout out to Betty for watching, everyone at Pro Edge Racing. Big shout out Trey Holmes. He had a really sneaky quiet night, and all of a sudden ended up, I think, getting 6th at the end there. Huge shout out to Weeks as well. That was a clutch win. It was fun to watch. I wish I could have been a little closer, but that was good stuff. Shout out Blake too. We battled pretty good all night. I was kind of just trying to watch what he was doing and learn and improve. I mean, that guy's lightning quick. So. And yeah, just shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast for us, and we will hopefully I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Sounds good, buddy. Congratulations on the podium, and I'm looking forward to you getting it back in victory lane. I feel like it's coming.
Yeah, me too. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Ethan Burrell, the 3rd place finisher. Let's grab the 2nd place finisher, Blake Reynolds, here and bring him to the booth. And Blake, you know, we keep talking to you after these 2nd place finishes, and that one, you know, you led a lot of this race and you really fired it in there in turn 4, but ultimately came up just a little bit short.
Yeah, I was just trying to get his left rear aero. That seemed to be big tonight. For some reason, next gen's here. That's actually what happened with Fody when he crashed. I just got in there and turned one. He left the door open. I got on his left rear, and the car on the outside, they really can't do anything after that. They kind of just plow up the track. Not really sure what it is. I don't know if it's realistic, but it's a thing. So that's kind of what happened. That's what I was trying to do. I'm not trying to wreck anyone. You can ask, apparently Chad thinks I wreck everybody, but we had some beef tonight. But it's all good. I'm sure he'll get over it. I had fun. I like Indy. I think I told y'all that last time we raced. I have good stats here in the Coke Series when I was racing in there, and I was looking forward to it. It's just a shame. It's just, why does this have to be a drafting track? Like why can't you just hit your apex right, save your tires and go for it? It just seemed like it mattered who you were drafting with more.
You're preaching to the choir on that one, buddy. All of us up here would love to change this car.
I speak the truth. Yeah. But yeah, and then also the gearing was weird. I think it was just the iRacing setup. I don't think anyone in the league did anything wrong. Actually, I don't even know if you can change it here. But yeah, good race. Kind of really wanted to win. Yeah, I'm happy for Mr. Weeks. I don't think he's won yet this season. I'm not sure what his stats are in the league. He kind of just he kind of held back there. He's kind of the long run guy, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm. He is the long run guy. He's a 2-time champion of this league, though. So he's
nice.
Oh yeah, he's done it. He's actually defending winner of this race as well. So he's gotten it done before. He knows how to get around here. But
yeah,
yeah, that's pretty good. Any questions for Blake there, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it a little bit, and even when we spoke to you these last couple of weeks, how important it is to you to gain the respect of these guys in elite, and certainly you touched on it a little bit. You didn't wreck Tyler Fody, you didn't wreck Matthew Weeks, or even make contact with him when there was a win in the Brickyard 400 on the line. You mentioned having a little bit of the beef with Chad, but other than that, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're making some headway in that direction with your performance so far this season?
I'll just say this. From the vibe I got tonight, I don't know if I'm liked. Like, maybe I'm respected. Like, I'm not sure how is it the Lake Norman team? They always seem to get up front. I got up there at the end, and it's the Lake Norman cars. They were just all packed together, and I could tell they were kind of working together. I'm like, oh man. And my teammate wasn't even allowed in the race, Garrison Hogan, another open car. So, fortunately, no teammates. But yeah, I worked my way past what's his name, Ryan Gabble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, he got tightened to me in 3, and then I think he ended up getting spun 4 that next time. Then I fought with Stanley. I think me and Stanley made contact once. Hopefully, he's not mad about that. I really don't think any of it was my fault. I think it's just a circumstance of the aero. You get side by side, you're both trying so hard, you get stuck together, you wash up the track, hit the wall. It's just kind of what happens. So, I'm hoping those Lake Norman guys like me. I like to be liked. I think everyone does. So, but I'm giving them a fight. From what I've been told from some other drivers I'm hanging in with Discord, like they're like the team in this league. So it's nice to go and give like the people who are up front every week the fight, and I'd like to do that. But I just hope to do it clean. I hope to have the respect. It's not looking too good when I had the league admin upset with me, but I gave him a block, and then he tried to intent wreck me. So I mean, it is what it is. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that one, but
yeah.
The Lake Norman guys know you're tough competition, so they're going to give you their best. You're giving them your best. I think that's just racing.
Yeah, it's good racing. That's what I told Chad. Even I was like, good racing, and I think he was cooled down. We talked to him like for 20 seconds after the race, so I think he's all cool about it. But that's just what happened in the race, man. We're fresh off of it, so. I'm glad I could get a good run for the Track Racer Channel 199 Drink Machine Works Toyota Camry. It's new this year for me. I used to race a Ford, right? Toyota this year. It's looking good, and I'm the what's it called? The support driver to our Coke Series effort. So it's all good. All good. Thumbs up.
Awesome. Well, congrats on that, Blake, and you gave us your shout-outs there, so we'll let you go, but, I anticipate we'll be seeing you in Victory Lane pretty soon this season, and, good luck the rest of the way. I think it's Michigan next week.
Yeah, I was telling the guys, I don't think I'm going to win at all this season, but I will win this championship or finish the second. Unfortunately, that's a vibe I get. I'm attracted to second place. It is an unfortunate thing in multiple leagues and other series I've raced, so... thank you guys, and I look forward to watching the broadcast back. I'm sure it was fun, and I'll see you all in Michigan.
All right, we'll see you, Blake. Thank you.
Thank you.
Blake Reynolds, second place finisher. Let's grab the now two-time Brickyard 400 winner, Matthew Weeks, and bring him up. And Matthew, congratulations on that race win. And I mean, take me through your night, buddy. It was you're pretty much up front the whole way, but you kind of never got the lead until right near the end.
Yeah, earlier in the race, I was just taking my time. The car wasn't like last time we raced here. It was different. So most of it, I was just trying to just take care of my tires, not burn the right rear too much, and at least stay up there with Blake. I think Stanley was up there, and Ethan Braille. I think, and John Cullett before they had their incident. And I was just trying to stay grouped with them and take care of my stuff. I knew I had a little something secret saved. I didn't tell nobody. I was like, this is my playground in the stock car. So I was just like, I'm going to keep that secret and just keep it to myself. And, I shifted a little bit in the run just trying to make passes, but mainly it was just keeping it fifth and staying up there. And I thought we were doing really good while everyone's doing their green flag stops, and I started catching Blake on that long run. I'm like, okay, as soon as I catch him, I'm going to pit and we can race it out, because I like in my mind I thought we were the two best on the long run, so that's who I was focused on. And then that caution come out, and then as usual in Elite, them kind of over halfway cautions turn, and everyone's trying to take on restarts and more. And so after that, I think I was like 11th, and I was just taking care of my tires while everyone was going hard trying to get. And luckily some wrecks happened, and then Ethan got in the back of Gavel on accident in one of the middle of the corners, and that put me in fourth. And the track cooled down enough where and we didn't have that many laps, so I was shifting every time, and then it was just full send, and I saved what I had for the end right there.
And Matthew, I know I talked about it a little bit, even before that last restart, being able to get a good run and ultimately a win tonight, pretty big for you after the start of this season. How much relief it is, not just to be a back-to-back Brickyard 400 winner, but to get that win and punch your ticket to the playoffs.
It's big, dude. It's been a struggle. Not in Cup, it's been both Xfinities. Like, I've had the speed, just something happens. Like, I felt like I was the best car in the longer run at Kentucky, and then we'll have a late caution and something, and then I made a rookie mistake and loosed myself and wrecked myself. And then I don't even remember Daytona. We had that big wreck when I was pushing Ethan. It's just been bad, and I didn't want to raise Zandvoort. And so get this win, lock myself in the playoffs. Now it's just all about trying to get playoff points right now, and that's the main focus for the rest of the season. So it's big to get this win after the start we had, because I think I was like 30th in points, something like that, and that's a long way to go with how good the competition is in here. So the win just makes it so much easier.
I got you, Matthew. Well, Michigan next week. Any preferences there? Big, fan, not a fan, or
Love it. It's where I got my first Elite Cup win. It's one of my best tracks. It's even in my console days, it was my best track, and it like transitioned over to iRacing. It's like me and Michigan have a connection. So when I seen the schedule, and it was like Indy, Michigan. I was like, oh, I have a chance to go back to back. So I'm excited for Michigan. I hope we get some long runs so I can finally put this, let everyone know about my tire, how good my tire wear is, because I had to listen to Discord. Everyone, oh, Stanley, and I was like, dude, y'all forgetting about this 11 car right here. It's like, I'm a two-time champ. I ain't no slouch, so that's why I had to go a little hard at the end. So I'm tired of people sleeping on me all the time. It's like, y'all got to remember, I'm still here.
I like it, man. I like the attitude. Well, any shout-outs for us here before we send you off tonight?
Shout out to you guys. It got to a long race at the end, so it's always good for y'all to stick around, and I know the effort from working on trucks on Sunday. So shout out to you guys. Chad on putting on the league. JV Designs, my buddy Justin Vandermeer with this amazing scheme I love last season. I'm just gonna keep running the scheme. It looks so good. So shout out to him. Sean Cutlip at JD Designs, hit him up for some paint schemes too. He makes some bangers. Everyone that's part of the league, shout out to Blake for racing me clean there and didn't completely smoke me on the white flag like I know a lot of people would. So respect to him for racing me clean. And everyone else that was racing up there, man, we had a good battle up front. So shout out to all those guys, and see everyone next week, and let's have another good one.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Matthew. Congratulations on the win. And yeah, we'll see you next week in Michigan.
All right, man. Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
And that will conclude our interviews. And I'll let you give a final thought here, Zach, and then we can let James sign off from his first Elite Racing broadcast.
Well, I think it was very interesting to hear some of those comments from Matthew Weeks, and especially in contrast to Blake, and nothing against him, but obviously a newer guy still learning who he's racing against. So you had to be like, Matthew Weeks was, he hasn't been exposed to the Matthew Weeks we know from years past in Elite. He's seen the guy that finished 27th and 21st the first two races of the season, and we know the guy that Matthew Weeks feels like a lot of people have been sleeping on, and he definitely woke up a lot of people tonight with this race. And like he said, and we've seen that a lot of times with guys in the real world, even in the early 2000s, it was, you had those guys that in that summer stretch with Pocono and Michigan, these long, big, relatively flat tracks. If they're good at one, they're good at all of them. Bill Elliott was one of those guys when he was driving for Evernham, and Matthew Weeks feels like he could put together one of those, a similar type run here going to Michigan next week.
I think I'm with you on that, especially after his comments and how much he likes Michigan. So, James, any final thoughts here after your first Elite Racing broadcast?
Yeah, that was Matthew's interview. That was amazing. Like, he straight up said, he's like, put some respect on my name. Like, that's what you love to hear here as a competitor from a competitor. And yeah, this was a fascinating race from green to checker. There were a lot of jaw-dropping moments that just kind of took you back and was like, wow, I can't believe this just happened. The Cutlip and Stanley coming together at the end of the stage. Fody having his issue battling for the lead. Like, that's the mark of a good race, when you have multiple things that just make you sit back and go, that just happened. So yeah, it was an absolutely great race to watch. I'm honored that you guys had me hop in and fill in for the dream team here. I can't quite be Zach, but hopefully I was brought some good insight, and y'all enjoyed my unintelligible screaming when stuff started to get real on the track. So yeah, it was a awesome race, and can't wait for next week's race.
With you, buddy. Well, we appreciate it, James, and yeah, I think I'd echo both of your final thoughts. What a great race. Long one, though. So we'll go ahead and sign off for David Huckleberry, the producer, James Watson, Zach Evans, and myself, David Westergreen. That was the Den Decor Depot Brickyard 400, and we'll catch you guys next week, same time from Michigan. Everybody have